Chapter 562. Again, Senior Sword. Lu Yuan gripped his golden dragon spear tightly as he looked at the sword Douluo, and a hint of battle intent appeared in his heart. He gripped his golden dragon spear tightly as he charged forward again. That's exactly what I want. The sword Douluo's eyes abruptly opened at the sight of Lu Yuan charging toward him again, and a sharp aura instantly flashed through his eyes. Be careful, Senior Sword. Lu Yuan swept his golden dragon spear through the air, and powerful and sharp spear intent was released without reservation. He thrust his golden dragon spear forward, and the sound of splashing waves could be heard. This was none other than one of his self-invented spear techniques, Vast Ocean. Bring it on. The sword Douluo roared as he slashed his 7 kills sword through the air. A sharp and dazzling silver thread seemed to have pierced through space, and it was imbued with a sharpness that seemed to be able to slice through all things as it hurtled directly toward Lu Yuan. Sword Chi thread? Lu Yuan's expression abruptly darkened at the sight of this silver thread. Sword Chi thread was something that could only be achieved by someone who had reached a very high level of mastery in the way of the sword. The way of the sword was about destroying all abilities with a single sword strike, and the sword Douluo was naturally still very far away from that level. However, there was no doubt that he was already quite close to that level. It could be said that Sword Chi thread was the first step on the path of destroying all abilities with a single sword strike. Even though there were still countless paths that he had to take, he had finally embarked on this path. Sword Chi thread possessed extremely high offensive power, so even Lu Yuan didn't dare to underestimate it. After resisting the sword Douluo's attack with his golden dragon spear, Lu Yuan hurriedly switched to his own spear technique, Vortex, which was a variation of his self-invented soul skill, calm as still water. Spear technique, Vortex was the only defensive spear technique that Lu Yuan had invented, and it possessed extremely powerful defensive abilities. Not only could the complete Vortex nullify attacks, it could also engulf energy, and it was extraordinarily powerful. At the same time, it also had a few other variations. One of them was calm as still water. There was no other side to this technique aside from its ability to nullify the enemy's attack. The attack power of Sword Chi thread was very strong. Spear technique, strength of the vast ocean was not enough, but if he added calm as still water, then it would be enough to deal with it. Not bad. Take this. Sword splits the universe. The sword Douluo arrived beside Lu Yuan in an instant. Silver light erupted from his 7 kills sword, and it instantly lengthened by several times. The sword Douluo wielded his sword with one hand and slashed it viciously toward Lu Yuan. The sword Douluo didn't hold back at all. Or rather, he wouldn't hold back from the moment he clashed with Lu Yuan. This was a battle between a sword and a spear, a battle between a swordsman and a spear user. Looking at the huge 7 kills sword that was slashing towards him, the endless sharp aura even made Lu Yuan feel a strong chill and needle-like pain on his skin. However, Lu Yuan wasn't surprised at all. Instead, he laughed. This was the kind of battle he wanted. Only at the critical moment could a person's potential erupt and have a greater breakthrough. Good timing. Lu Yuan's golden dragon blood essence surged wildly within his body, and a large amount of soul power was injected into his golden dragon spear. Instantly, the golden dragon spear shone brightly with golden light, and an invisible dragon's might permeated the air. Vast Ocean Universe. This was the most powerful technique from the Vast Ocean spear art, and it had been with Lu Yuan for many years. Although Lu Yuan had created his own spear technique after comprehending the Vast Ocean spear art, the power of his spear technique was far inferior to Vast Ocean Universe. This was because Lu Yuan was still too immature when he created it. It was only his first step. Over the years, Lu Yuan had been using his self-created spear technique, and rarely used Vast Ocean Universe. However, this didn't mean that Vast Ocean Universe wasn't powerful. It was just that Lu Yuan wanted to embark on his own path, so he didn't use it. However, in the face of the sword Douluo's sword splits the universe, Lu Yuan decisively used Vast Ocean Universe. He thrust his golden dragon spear forward, and it was as if a boundless ocean had appeared in the air. It was as if the ocean waves were surging up into the heavens, and the loud booms being emitted by the surging waves were also ringing out right beside his ears. This was one of the unique phenomena that could only be seen when one cultivated the vast ocean spear art to perfection. Only those who had completely comprehended the vast ocean spear intent could achieve this. The golden dragon spear clashed with the giant seven kills sword, and energy surged. A loud explosion immediately rang out, and stone fragments flew everywhere as a cloud of dust filled the air. The meticulously laid ground was like a thin piece of paper in the face of their attacks. It was completely shattered into stone fragments, and a massive crater appeared in the ground. How is it? How's the situation? Lu Yuan and Sword Douluo's figures were completely obscured by the cloud of dust, so Ning Fengji and the others couldn't see what was going on in the cloud of dust. Ning Rongrong couldn't help but ask anxiously. It was important to know that one of the two people in the cloud of dust was Grandpa Jian, and the other was Lu Yuan, whom she had given her heart to. No matter who was injured, her heart would ache for a long time. Hence, she was very worried at this moment. "It's fine, they're still fighting," Ma Xiaodao said. This was Ma Xiaotao's voice. As Lu Yuan's personal bodyguard, she had never left Lu Yuan's side after Long Xiaoyaro took charge of the law enforcement hall, even in the Dragon King Hall. "They're still fighting?" After hearing Ma Xiaotao's words, everyone couldn't help but raise their eyebrows as they stared at the dust-filled arena. The cloud of dust gradually dissipated, and Lu Yuan and Sword Douluo's figures were revealed. "Haha, Elder Jian, take another move of mine, thousand-year space-time." Lu Yuan laughed heartily. With a thought in his mind, he immediately used the thousand-year space-time from the 13 halberds of the sea god. When he used this move, it was as if thousands of spear projections of the golden dragon spear appeared in the air. Furthermore, every single one of them seemed to possess immense offensive strength. The thousand-year space-time was the second move of the 13 halberds of the sea god. It was extremely powerful. "Good move. Take my 7 kills sword." The Sword Douluo roared. Silver light flashed from his 7 kills sword, and he flicked his wrist. Every time his sword slashed down, a huge black kill word would appear. In an instant, the Sword Douluo had slashed out 7 kill words consecutively. This was an extremely powerful killing move of the 7 kills sword technique. The Sword Douluo waved his sword, and the 7 kill words crashed towards Lu Yuan with immense power. 7 kills sword technique. Good move. Faced with the Sword Douluo's attack, Lu Yuan wasn't afraid at all. Thousands of spear projections of the golden dragon spear met the 7 kill words. "Break, break, break, break." Lu Yuan roared. His blood essence power and soul power were circulating at high speeds. Every single spear strike of the golden dragon spear would forcefully break a kill word. In the blink of an eye, he had already broken 6 kill words. "Break the last one too." Lu Yuan clenched his right hand tightly, and the veins on his arm bulged. He had already unleashed all of his strength. He took a step forward, and his golden dragon spear stabbed straight towards the final kill word. Chapter 563. He thrust out his golden dragon spear, and the thousands of spear projections instantly combined to form the most powerful attack. They clashed directly with the Sword Douluo's 7th word. Boom! The golden dragon spear clashed violently with the last word. It was as if Mars had collided with Earth. At the point of impact, energy surged violently once again, and a huge explosion occurred. Lu Yuan quickly retreated. He only managed to stabilize himself after retreating more than 20 meters. A streak of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. On the other side, the Sword Douluo also retreated more than 20 meters. The explosive force of this energy was too strong. If he didn't avoid it, even he would have been injured. After all, he wasn't a soul master who specialized in physical strength. His forte was offense, but his physical body wasn't very strong. Even so, his body was still churning. In the clash just now, neither he nor Lu Yuan had gained an advantage. This, Abuchi has actually withstood Uncle Jian's 7 killings swordplay. A look of disbelief flashed across Ning Fengji's eyes as he watched the battle. His face was full of astonishment. He didn't expect the two of them to be evenly matched in a pure clash of sword and spear techniques. Even without using soul skills, Uncle Jian's strength was comparable to a soul Douluo who used soul skills. Lu Yuan was also able to reach such a level without using soul skills. Didn't this mean that his true strength was at least above that of a soul Douluo? This conjecture caused a huge stir in Ningfengji's heart. Could someone like him really be considered human? Could he be a monster? Otherwise, how could he reach such a level at 14 years old? Actually, Ningfengji's conjecture was right. Lu Yuan was already at rank 58, and he could dominate Soul Douluo even without using his Polychoria. Once he used his Polychoria and Sea God's divine skills, he could definitely fight against ordinary titled Soul Masters. It could be said that without a transcendent Douluo, ordinary titled Douluo couldn't threaten Lu Yuan's life at all. Even if they couldn't defeat him, they could easily retreat. If he was forced into a corner and took out his Godslayer spear, the consequences would be even more wonderful. If he really used the Godslayer spear again, he wouldn't miss his thrust. After the Blood Emperor, who would be lucky enough to taste the love of the God-slaying spear? In fact, Lu Yuan had always been very curious. So amazing. When Ning Rongrong saw that Lu Yuan was actually tied with Grandpa Jian, whom she worshipped like a god, she could not help but gape slightly, a look of shock on her face. Impressive indeed. Zhu Zhuqing couldn't help but agree. Her eyes were shining, and her face was full of pride. This was her man. It seems like little brother won't need my protection in a few years, Ma Xiaodao said with a smile. Now that Lu Yuan's strength had reached such a level, she was afraid that he would catch up to her in a few years' time. At that time, he really wouldn't need her protection. Little brother's growth is really fast. Ma Xiaodao sighed softly. She was summoned a year ago. At that time, Lu Yuan had just accepted the Titan giant ape sacrifice, and was only around rank 55. Because of the sacrifice, his soul power had increased by a lot, and he couldn't even control his own soul power completely. Although he was very strong, in Ma Xiaodao's eyes, he was still lacking. However, in just this year, Ma Xiaodao saw him create his two self-created soul skills, Dragon Swimming Great Void and Spear Technique, Vortex. Although his soul power had only increased by 3 ranks, his strength had increased by a lot. Right now, he was already very strong. Even if he relied on himself, he could already gain a foothold on the continent. His improvement wasn't small at all. She was already a rare genius, but compared to Lu Yuan, she paled in comparison. Her master was indeed the master. He was really powerful. Not only were the few of them shocked, but even the people of the Dragon King Hall who were watching were the same. While they were shocked, they couldn't help but admire Lu Yuan greatly. This was their Dragon King Hall master. Although he was young, his strength was very strong. He was already enough to catch up with the older generation of soul masters. They couldn't help but support Lu Yuan even more. Kid Yuan, it seems like I underestimated you. I didn't expect you to be able to withstand my 7 annihilation swordplay. The sword Douluo stood with his sword in hand, and his indifferent voice sounded. I was just lucky. Senior Sword's 7 annihilation swordplay is really powerful. I also used all my strength to barely break it. Lu Yuan stood up straight and smiled. How's your comprehension? Do you have any ideas? The sword Douluo asked. I have some ideas, but I'm still a little lacking, Lu Yuan said softly. He had indeed gained some enlightenment from the sword Douluo's 7 annihilation swordplay, and the killing intent in his body had also fused into his spear. However, for some reason, he still felt that something was missing. Alright, then let me help you again. I still have the 7 annihilation wall combination. It's the most powerful move in the 7 annihilation swordplay. If you can't withstand this move, you might die. Are you still willing to try? The sword Douluo's calm voice sounded. Of course. Please do your best, senior, Lu Yuan said gently. Alright, then take it. The sword Douluo raised his long sword and pointed his 7 kills sword up into the air. He flicked his wrist slightly, and a burst of extremely sharp sword intent instantly permeated through the air. The sword Douluo gently swept his hand through the air, and on this occasion, there was only one word, kill, as opposed to 7 characters. However, this annihilation was more than 10 times larger than the previous 7. The massive black annihilation word stood in midair before crashing down viciously toward Lu Yuan. As the black annihilation word came crashing down, an invisible but extremely sharp killing intent locked onto Lu Yuan. In the face of this killing intent, Lu Yuan's hair immediately stood on end, and cold sweat appeared on his back. A sense of immense peril welled up in his heart. The sword Douluo wasn't lying. If he couldn't withstand this attack, he really would die. I didn't think Uncle Jian would use this move, Ning Fengji murmured to himself. This was the sword Douluo's most powerful attack, and if he were to unleash this attack in his martial soul true body state, it would be enough to kill a titled Douluo. Even though he was only unleashing this sword technique in his normal state, it was still extremely powerful, and only a titled Douluo would be able to withstand this attack. However, Lu Yuan hadn't even released his martial soul or donned his golden dragon armor, so it would be extremely difficult for him to withstand this attack. Grandpa Jian, what is he doing? Is he trying to kill Lu Yuan? Ning Rongrong's face immediately paled at the sight of the sword Douluo unleashing such a powerful attack, and she couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. She immediately rushed toward the battlefield. On the other side, Zhu Zhuqing also abruptly clenched her fists and bit down on her lower lip. A hint of clear blue light appeared in her black eyes. Chapter 564. Rongrong, don't be rash. Your grandpa Jian knows what he's doing. Ning Fengji pulled Ning Rongrong back when he saw that she was about to charge towards the center of the battlefield. He wants Ibuchi to feel the threat of death so that he can unleash his potential and achieve a breakthrough. Given Ibuchi's talent, he might be able to gain some enlightenment under the threat of death. Rongrong, you have to believe in Ibuchi and your grandpa Jian. Your grandpa Jian knows what he's doing, Ning Fengji said gently. Really, Daddy? Ning Rongrong bit her red lips and looked straight at Ning Fengji. Her eyes flickered with tears. Really? Ning Fengji rubbed his daughter's head and sighed softly. It seemed that this girl was really stuck in the mud and couldn't extricate herself. After receiving Ning Fengji's affirmation, Ning Rongrong's heart barely calmed down. She opened her eyes wide and watched the situation on the battlefield without blinking. Zhu Zhuqing was the same. She clenched her fists and looked at the battlefield not far away. Her eyes were filled with worry and concern. The members of the Dragon King Palace who were spectating the battle felt the same way. In the face of the sword Douluo's terrifying attack, they were all nervous for Lu Yuan. Would Lu Yuan be able to withstand this attack? The only person who wasn't worried was Ma Xiaodao. Ning Rongrong and Zhu Zhuqing were too concerned about Lu Yuan, so they lost their sense of propriety. However, Ma Xiaodao could see very clearly that no matter whether Lu Yuan could withstand this move or not, he would not be hurt at all. This was the Dragon King Palace, and if Lu Yuan were to suffer even the slightest injury, then neither the sword Douluo nor Ning Fengji would be able to leave this place alive. Long Xiaoyaro could beat the sword Douluo with one hand. Even she could defeat him easily. Although the sword Douluo was at rank 96 and had comprehended sword intent, she was only at rank 95. However, her martial soul was a fire phoenix that controlled ultimate fire, and she also had a 100,000-year soul ring. If she unleashed her full power, her fighting strength would be comparable to a transcendent Douluo at the peak of rank 97. Defeating the sword Douluo wouldn't be a problem for her. As such, she was very relaxed. With the sword Douluo's intelligence, he would definitely hold back and not really hurt Lu Yuan. The only thing Ma Xiaodao was looking forward to was whether her little brother could really take this move. If it was possible, then little brother master would really be amazing. Ma Xiaodao thought as she looked at the battlefield with her big pink eyes. On the battlefield, Lu Yuan looked at the black kill character that was getting closer and closer. Feeling the terrifying murderous intent that was about to drown him, the sense of crisis in his heart grew stronger and stronger, and the aura of death grew thicker and thicker. Shrouded by this terrifying murderous intent, Lu Yuan's heart trembled in fear. Suddenly, a thought flashed through his mind. He finally knew what he was missing. The reason why he couldn't fuse his murderous intent into his spear wasn't because he didn't have enough control over it, nor was it because his murderous intent wasn't thick enough. On the contrary, his murderous intent was very thick and pure. It even contained a ferocious aura that other types of murderous intent didn't have. This was the unique murderous intent of the God-slaying spear. There were two reasons why he couldn't fuse his murderous intent into his spear. First, he didn't have any murderous intent in his heart. When he attacked with his spear, he didn't have any murderous intent in his heart. Under such circumstances, how could he fuse his murderous intent into his spear? The second reason was Lu Yuan's rejection of the God-slaying murderous aura from the bottom of his heart. Perhaps it was because the God-slaying spear had been influencing him from the very beginning, corroding him and subtly changing his personality. Therefore, he had always been repulsed by the God-slaying spear. He wanted to use it, but he was also repulsed by it in his heart. This was because Lu Yuan was afraid that he would be affected by the God-slaying spear again. Even though his spiritual power was no longer afraid of being corroded by the God-slaying spear, this didn't change. He still rarely used the God-slaying spear. Even the murderous intent that came from the God-slaying spear was forcefully controlled by his spiritual power. He didn't fuse his body with it. This was actually a disadvantage. Now, Lu Yuan understood. Since the God-slaying spear was already his martial soul, the murderous aura of the God-slaying spear completely belonged to him. Furthermore, his spiritual power was strong enough to not be afraid of the God-slaying spear's corrosion. Why would he resist it? He might as well let go of all his resistance and repulsion. He might as well accept it completely and truly become one with it. With this thought, Lu Yuan immediately let go of the Clear Breath Sutra's soul power and Clear Breath divine power. The murderous intent that was filled with ferocious killing intent was instantly released from Lu Yuan's body. The golden dragon spear started to exude a strange blood gold color. Yes, it wasn't the original bright gold color. Instead, it was blood gold. This was a sign that the murderous intent had already fused with the golden dragon spear. After he let go of the restraints, Lu Yuan's aura suddenly soared. A murderous intent so dense that even the sword Douluo's heart trembled erupted from Lu Yuan's body. A blood-red light started to spread rapidly in all directions from Lu Yuan's feet. What a terrifying murderous intent! The blood-red light spread very quickly. It instantly enveloped the area where the sword Douluo was. The terrifying murderous intent caused the sword Douluo to tremble slightly. This murderous intent was so pure and ferocious that it was something that he had never seen before. It far surpassed the murderous intent of his 7 kills sword. Fuse! Lu Yuan roared. Blood-red light flashed in his jewel pupils. The extremely dense murderous intent in his body was injected into the golden dragon spear. The golden dragon spear was already blood gold in color. The blood-red light on the golden dragon spear became even more intense. The tip of the spear had become extremely red. Just as Lu Yuan was about to thrust his spear, the god-slaying spear that had been lying quietly in Lu Yuan's mind all this time suddenly flashed with blood-red light. A pitch-black god-slaying spear projection was attached to the golden dragon spear. What's this? Lu Yuan was bewildered. However, he didn't slow down at all. He thrust his spear straight toward the huge black kill character in the air. Spear technique. Slaughter. Slaughtering life was the name of Lu Yuan's newly created spear technique. It was a move that Lu Yuan had naturally comprehended after fusing the murderous aura into the spear. Once this move was unleashed, it would definitely slaughter all living beings and annihilate all living beings. The golden dragon spear that was enshrouded within the black spear projection clashed directly with the massive black kill character, and it was as if it were slicing through tofu with a sharp knife. The massive black kill character was completely vanquished and dissipated into specks of light. Chapter 565. After completely vanquishing the black kill character, Lu Yuan thrust his spear straight toward the sword Douluo. Before the sword Douluo could even react, the golden spear was already pressed against his forehead. Terrifying killing intent engulfed his entire body, and beads of cold sweat appeared on the sword Douluo's forehead. An extremely strong sense of impending doom enveloped his heart. Uncle Jian, Grandpa Jian, Ning Fengji and Ning Rongrong both let out horrified cries upon seeing this. No one had expected that Lu Yuan, who had been in an absolutely disadvantageous position and had even been suppressed by the giant black kill character, would suddenly erupt with astonishing power. He easily nullified the sword Douluo's 7-kill combination, and even managed to instantly counterattack. The golden dragon spear that was shrouded in black spear projections emanated an aura that was difficult to look at directly. The tip of the spear was pressed against the sword Douluo's forehead, and they had no doubt that the sword Douluo would definitely die if the tip of the spear were to press forward a little more. Is this spear technique called life slaughtering? Even though the sword Douluo's mind was momentarily overwhelmed by the terrifying killing intent, he was still the sword Douluo after all. He was extremely calm and composed, and he quickly recovered. Since Lu Yuan's spear didn't press down on him, he naturally wouldn't be in any danger. Even though Lu Yuan's eyes were filled with intense killing intent right now, the sword Douluo's eyes were still filled with killing intent. "You have a good temperament, Senior Jian." Lu Yuan smiled, and the killing intent in his eyes quickly dissipated. He slowly withdrew his golden dragon spear, and the blood-red light on the spear quickly receded. The originally dazzling golden body of the spear was revealed once again, and the black spear projections that enveloped the golden dragon spear also gradually dissipated. As he watched the gradually dissipating black spear projections, Lu Yuan's eyes narrowed slightly, and a bright light flashed through them. The murderous aura on his body was completely withdrawn, and the blood-red light that permeated the air also shrank back into Lu Yuan's body. Immediately, the murderous Lu Yuan, who was originally full of murderous aura, regained his confident and gentle appearance. There was no longer any murderous intent. "Senior Jian, what do you think of my life-slaughtering move?" Lu Yuan asked with a chuckle. "It's very impressive. The sharpness of the spear technique, the purity of the killing intent, and the ferocity of the killing intent are all things that I've never seen before. Compared to it, my 7 kills sword technique is inferior." The sword Douluo sighed softly, and there was a hint of melancholy in his voice. "Senior, you are too modest. Junior's life slaughtering is not as powerful as you think. The situation just now was just an example. In reality, the power will be much weaker." Lu Yuan smiled faintly. "What do you mean?" The sword Douluo was a little confused after hearing Lu Yuan's words, and he turned to look at Lu Yuan in confusion. However, Lu Yuan did not answer. He only smiled and remained silent. Spear technique, Life Slaughterer was naturally very powerful. This was a move created by the combination of God-slaying murderous chi and Lu Yuan's darting spear intent. Its lethality was huge, even stronger than the 1,000-year break of the Neptune's 13 halberds. It could be compared to the strongest single-target attack of the Neptune's 13 halberds, the third move, gone without return. After all, this move was fused with God-slaying murderous chi. God-slaying murderous chi was extremely terrifying, and its purity was definitely the best in the Douluo continent. Even the Azura god's murderous chi had to stand aside before it, because it came from the Heavenly Law's #1 weapon, the God-slaying spear. Although this God-slaying spear was only a martial soul, it was still an indescribably huge killing weapon. Even the clear air divine seed, which nurtured the power of laws, stood aside in fear when it saw it. It had to be known that the clear air divine seed nurtured the strongest deity position in the entire Douluo universe. It was a deity position that could control the laws of all the planes in the Douluo universe. It was definitely unimaginably powerful. However, it was still a little brother in front of the God-slaying spear martial soul. However, although spear technique, life slaughtering was powerful and God-slaying murderous chi was terrifying, Lu Yuan's cultivation was still limited. It was impossible for him to break through the sword Douluo's 7 kills combination so easily. The reason for this was because of the God-slaying spear's projection that enveloped the golden dragon spear. That's right. It was only a projection. It wasn't the complete God-slaying spear martial soul. This projection even appeared on its own accord without Lu Yuan summoning it. What did this mean? This meant that the God-slaying spear's spirit had completely accepted Lu Yuan. It had completely acknowledged Lu Yuan as its master. In the past, Lu Yuan was repulsed and fearful of the God-slaying spear. Naturally, he wouldn't be acknowledged by the God-slaying spear. However, now that Lu Yuan had opened his arms and completely accepted the existence of the God-slaying spear, The God-slaying spear's spirit had finally acknowledged Lu Yuan as its master. It even took the initiative to envelop the golden dragon spear with the God-slaying spear's projection and break the sword Douluo's ultimate technique with a single strike. At this moment, Lu Yuan could be considered to have truly gained control of the God-slaying spear. From now on, the God-slaying spear wouldn't have any negative influence on him. Instead, he could control the God-slaying murderous Qi as he wished. This was the benefit of having the God-slaying spear recognize a true master. After gaining the recognition of the God-slaying spear's spirit, Lu Yuan was very happy. In addition, he had created the powerful spear technique, Life Massacre. His gains today were extraordinarily huge. The only flaw was that his legs felt a little weak when he stood. As for why, it was because the projection of the God-slaying spear had drained a lot of his soul power. In addition to the fact that he had been fighting for so long, his soul power was a little weak right now. Sigh, although the God-slaying spear's soul power consumption has decreased after recognizing a master, it's still a bottomless pit. It seems like I can't use it so easily in the future. Lu Yuan sighed softly in his heart. Grandpa Jian, are you alright? Seeing that the two of them had stopped fighting, it was obvious that the battle had ended. Ning Rongrong immediately rushed over. Earlier, Lu Yuan's spear strike was simply earth-shattering. When he pressed the tip of the spear against the sword Douluo's forehead, her heart really jumped to her throat. She was really afraid that Lu Yuan would stab the sword Douluo with the spear. In the end, fortunately, Lu Yuan stopped in time. The sword Douluo sighed softly and said, "Don't worry, Grandpa Jian is fine. However, I've lost this battle. It's true that the new generation excels the old. Senior Jian, you're too kind. I was just lucky. Furthermore, it was all thanks to you for helping me break through just now." Lu Yuan smiled and said, "Senior Jian, there's a longevity pill in the jade bottle. Take it as a token of my gratitude to you. Rongrong, come over for a moment." Lu Yuan called out softly. After hearing Lu Yuan's voice, Ning Rongrong hurriedly walked over to Lu Yuan's side. She looked at Lu Yuan with her big eyes and blinked gently. Her eyes were shining brightly. "Give it to your Grandpa Jian," Lu Yuan said gently as he rubbed Ning Rongrong's head. "Okay." Ning Rongrong took the jade bottle and walked over to the sword Douluo's side. She handed the jade bottle to him. "Abuchi, are you alright?" Zhu Zhuqing stepped forward and supported Lu Yuan. She looked at Lu Yuan's pale face and couldn't help but ask softly, "I'm fine. I've just used a little too much soul power." Lu Yuan gently patted Zhu Zhuqing's jade-like hand and replied gently. Chapter 566. Are you really alright? Zhu Zhuqing was still a little worried as she asked again. "I'm really alright. My legs are just a little wobbly. You'll have to help me back later." Lu Yuan smiled as he looked at Zhu Zhuqing's pretty face. "You're being naughty again." Zhu Zhuqing couldn't help but chide Lu Yuan when she saw the strange look in his eyes. She rolled her eyes at Lu Yuan. "Hee hee." Lu Yuan chuckled when he saw this. He grabbed Zhu Zhuqing's hand tightly and acted as if he didn't care at all. "You're pretty impressive. You actually defeated the sword Douluo," Zhu Zhuqing whispered into Lu Yuan's ear. "I was just lucky. I wouldn't have been able to win if we had fought again. Furthermore, this was just a battle of spear and sword techniques. If both of us had used our martial souls, I would have definitely lost. The gap between me and a transcendent Douluo like the sword Douluo is still too wide. If I really want to win, I'm afraid I'll have to be close to rank 70 to have a chance. I might even have to be over rank 70, Lu Yuan said softly. This was his estimation of his own strength. After all, he could already fight an ordinary titled Douluo at rank 58. When he reached rank 70, he should have 2 more 100,000-year soul rings. In addition to some other tricks, such as his martial soul true body, his golden dragon martial soul true body would definitely be very strong once he became a soul sage. After all, the higher the quality of his martial soul, the greater the strength of his martial soul true body. It was still possible for him to defeat the sword Douluo. "You're still not satisfied?" Zhu Zhuqing glared at Lu Yuan after hearing his words. You're still not satisfied with being able to defeat a powerful individual like the sword Douluo at rank 70? What else do you want? Hihi, I can't be satisfied. After all, I'm someone who pursues very high goals. It's good that I can defeat a transcendent Douluo at rank 70, but I want to work harder and bring this moment forward. Lu Yuan chuckled. Pervert. Zhu Zhuqing gave Lu Yuan an exasperated look and muttered softly. You're not satisfied even if I can defeat you at rank 70? Do you want me to defeat a transcendent Douluo at rank 60? This guy really dared to think. As expected, his thoughts were different from that of a freak like him. Zhu Zhuqing thought to herself. What are you talking about, Kitty? Is that how you talk about your man? Lu Yuan glared at her. Me. Zhu Zhuqing snorted and tilted her head, looking proud. Ha! Seeing Zhu Zhuqing's appearance, Lu Yuan couldn't help but chuckle. Since Cher became obedient, her tsunda temper had also changed a lot. She indeed had the bearing of a legal wife. However, this kitten was still the same. Her temperament hadn't changed at all. However, this Zhu Zhuqing was still very cute and likable. Is this the longevity pill? While Lu Yuan was flirting with her, the sword Douluo and the others had already taken out the longevity pills that Lu Yuan had given them. After all, even the sword Douluo and the others were very curious about the longevity pills that could increase one's lifespan. Even the sword Douluo, Ning Fengji, and the others were watching. In Ning Fengji's hand was a green and glossy pill. This pill emitted a light fragrance. Just smelling this fragrance was enough to make one feel relaxed and refreshed. This was because this fragrance contained the purest life energy. The essence of the longevity pill was actually the life energy. After consuming the longevity pill, this life energy would be absorbed by the person who consumed the pill due to the special effects of the pill, increasing their own life energy. When one's life energy increased, their lifespan would naturally increase. However, the longevity pill also had its limits. It could only replenish life energy. It had a miraculous effect on those who didn't have much lifespan left. However, the effect was limited for those who were weak to begin with. Even if they were terminally ill or poisoned, the longevity pill wouldn't have much of an effect. After all, the longevity pill wasn't omnipotent. At most, it would make them feel better. The Snowy Night Emperor thought that the longevity pill could help him extend his lifespan, but that was wishful thinking. This was because he was poisoned by an extremely difficult poison. It wasn't something that could be cured by the longevity pill. In the entire world, other than the Po clan, only Lu Yuan, who had grasped the pill comprehension technique, could cure the poison. However, Lu Yuan was not going to help him detoxify the poison. It was his dear Schwerer who had personally poisoned him, and he was not going to ruin it. As for the Snowy Night Emperor, he was going to let him die when it was time. He was already so old. He should have had enough of being an emperor. It was time for him to die. This was Lu Yuan's truest thought. Of course, the Snowy Night Emperor didn't know about this. He was still hoping that he could live a few more years after taking the longevity pill. Ning Fengji and the rest sized up the longevity pill. Their eyes were filled with splendor. This pill was indeed extraordinary. Just by smelling it, they felt comfortable. It seemed like it was true that it could extend one's lifespan. However, just 2 wasn't enough. There was still Uncle Jiyu in the sect. He also needed this kind of pill. Ning Fengji thought to himself. Abuchi, do you have any more longevity pills? If you do, can you give me a few? Uncle will give you a satisfactory price. Ning Fengji looked at Lu Yuan and asked softly. About this. Lu Yuan's right hand gently stroked his chin. Of course, he had a lot of longevity pills in his hands, dozens of them. However, should he give them to Ning Fengji so easily? At the very least, he should get some benefits. Speaking of which, what did the Dragon King Palace lack? They didn't lack money. Now that the business of the Dragon King Palace had expanded to the Sionra Empire, the annual income was not small. Although it couldn't be compared to the 7 Treasures Glazed sect, it was still very rich. Didn't you see how extravagant Lu Yuan was with his money now? Wasn't it because he didn't lack money that he could go to a high-class place like the Starblue Hotel? However, if he didn't want money, what could he get in return? Lu Yuan was still thinking about it when he suddenly felt a weight on his right arm. He looked over and saw that it was Ning Rongrong who had pulled his arm into her embrace. Abuchi, promise my father, okay? Ning Rongrong blinked her big eyes. As she spoke, she kept rubbing Lu Yuan's arm in her embrace. Although Ning Rongrong wasn't as big as Zhu Zhuqing, such intimate contact still made Lu Yuan feel strange. Okay, don't move. I promise you. Looking at Ning Rongrong, Lu Yuan shook his head helplessly. Forget it, for Ning Rongrong's sake, he would sell it to them. Anyway, he still had a lot of stock in his hands. Lu Yuan opened his mouth and was about to speak. Suddenly, an idea flashed in his mind. He remembered a special product of the Seven Treasures glazed sect. That thing was a bit interesting. It seemed that he could play with it. Uncle Ning, I can give you a few more, but I am also interested in something from your Seven Treasures glazed sect. How about Uncle Ning give me some? Lu Yuan said with a chuckle. Chapter 567. Abuchi, what are you interested in? As long as Uncle Ning can take it out, I can give it to you. Ning Fengji smiled after hearing Lu Yuan's words. Yes, Abuchi, what are you interested in from the Seven Treasures glazed sect? Tell me, and even if my father doesn't give it to you, I'll give it to you. Ning Rongrong hugged Lu Yuan's arm with a sweet smile. F***ck. Ning Fengji's face darkened when he heard this. Is this still my daughter? Her ability to side with an outsider was not ordinary. How did I give birth to such a daughter? She's really trying to please her lover. She's even tricking her own father. Furthermore, he's not even your lover yet. Ning Fengji thought to himself indignantly. It wasn't just Ning Fengji. Even the sword Douluo's face twitched slightly. He didn't even have the strength to ridicule Ning Rongrong. Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile when he heard Ning Rongrong's words. He turned his head slightly and looked at Ning Fengji. Uncle Ning, I heard that your Seven Treasures glazed sect has something called the Rainbow Glazed Tea. I heard that it can increase soul power. You know about this too? Ning Fengji was slightly stunned when he heard this. He said, there is indeed such a thing, but it's only effective for soul elders and soul ancestors. It won't have any effect at higher ranks. Furthermore, it can only increase one's soul power by 1 rank. It won't have any effect even if one takes more. Why, are you interested in this? Ning Fengji asked. Yes, I'm quite interested in this tea that can increase one's soul power. Lu Yuan smiled. Alright, since you're interested, Abuchi, I'll give you some. But what about the longevity pills? Ning Fengji looked at Lu Yuan as he spoke. The longevity pills will naturally be given to you. However, there's a limit to how many longevity pills can be taken. Each person can take a maximum of 5 pills. After 5 pills, the effects will lose. Furthermore, the effects will weaken with each pill taken. Roughly speaking, taking 5 pills will only increase one's lifespan by 20 years. I have to remind you about this, Uncle Ning. Lu Yuan said softly. I understand. If you take too much, it's normal for the effect of the pill to weaken. Uncle Ning understands this. Ning Fengji said. How many longevity pills does Uncle Ning want? Lu Yuan asked. Abuchi, how many can you sell now? Ning Fengji asked. 10 at most. I have to keep some for backup, Lu Yuan said. Alright, I'll take 10 then. 1 million gold soul coins each. I'll also add half a catty of the rainbow glazed tea. You only need to add a little bit of the rainbow glazed tea every time you brew a cup. You don't need to add too much. Half a catty should be enough to last you a long time. What do you think, Abuchi? Ning Fengji asked. Alright, deal. Lu Yuan smiled faintly. After hearing Lu Yuan's words, Ning Fengji couldn't help but smile. Although he had paid a lot, he had obtained 10 longevity pills. It was worth it. In addition to the 2 pills that Lu Yuan had given him, Uncle Jian and Uncle Jiyu each had 5 pills. There were still 2 pills left. These 2 pills were enough for him to keep. Although he looked middle-aged, he wasn't young anymore. He was almost 60 years old. Furthermore, he wasn't a titled Douluo. His lifespan wasn't long either. He wanted to live a few more years. Even if he didn't need them now, he would need them in the future. Ning Fengji was very happy. Lu Yuan was also in a good mood. He wasn't doing this for the measly half a catty of rainbow-glazed tea. He was doing this for the recipe. After taking a look at the tea leaves and drinking 2 mouthfuls, he could basically guess the recipe with his current knowledge. At that time, the Dragon King Palace would have another profitable business. That would be a great deal of profit. You might think that you've taken advantage of me, but in fact, I've never lost out. I, Mr. Lu, have never done business that is at a loss. Lu Yuan chuckled to himself. Seeing the hidden smile in Lu Yuan's eyes and the slightly hooked-up corners of his mouth, Zhu Zhuqing could not help but shake her head. She knew that this man of her family must have cheated Sect Master Ning again. She knew Lu Yuan too well. He would never let himself be taken advantage of. Thinking about it, Lu Yuan must be planning something with the rainbow-glazed tea. Otherwise, he wouldn't have asked for it. He was a guy who wouldn't wake up early if there were no benefits. Other than being nice to his own people, he wouldn't be polite to others. Obviously, Ning Fengji was the one who had been cheated this time. However, he didn't seem to know it. However, Zhu Zhuqing didn't have any other thoughts. To be honest, Lu Yuan was her man. She would only be happier if Lu Yuan took advantage of her. With a smile at the corner of his mouth, Lu Yuan said softly, "Uncle Ning, I think it's getting late. It's almost noon. Why don't we go have lunch together?" "Okay, I'm really a little hungry." Ning Fengji smiled slightly. "Okay, let's go," Lu Yuan said softly. He led Ning Fengji and the others to the dining hall of the Dragon King Hall. The banquet should have been prepared there. After lunch, Ning Fengji and the others left. Ning Rongrong stayed. Ning Fengji didn't object. Anyone with a discerning eye could see what they were thinking. However, Lu Yuan didn't object. He called Wang Chua over. Ning Rongrong was now playing with Wang Chua. Anyway, this sister liked to stay with Ning Rongrong. She could share her brother's worries. Lu Yuan, on the other hand, was thinking about other things. Since the Snowy Night Emperor wanted to cooperate with him and rope him in, this was a good opportunity. He could plan appropriately. However, he still had to discuss with Chihiro Snow. Furthermore, he hadn't seen Chihiro Snow for a long time. "What are you thinking about?" Zhu Zhuqing asked softly. Seeing Lu Yuan sipping his tea and tapping his fingers on the table, deep in thought, Zhu Zhuqing sat down beside Lu Yuan and asked softly, "Thinking about the Snowy Night Emperor's attempt to rope me in, there are many things that can be planned. Also, we have to make some appropriate moves. For example, we don't get along well with the Martial Soul Palace. Let him think that his approach is right. It's very feasible to rope in the Dragon King Hall. Furthermore, this cooperation will be more natural. It won't arouse any suspicion. Therefore, we can put on a show appropriately." Lu Yuan said softly. "Put on a show, what do you mean?" Zhu Zhuqing couldn't help but ask. "I haven't thought about the specifics yet. I have to discuss these things with Cher. Later, I'll look for Cher." "Zhuqing, I won't be coming back tonight," Lu Yuan said softly. "Okay, I know." Zhu Zhuqing couldn't help but nod her head gently. Chapter 568. Heaven Do Imperial City, Crown Prince's Residence. Chihiro Snow and the snake-spear thorny pufferfish were walking in the courtyard of the Crown Prince's residence. Over the past few days, Empress Shuya had been in poor health, and she had been managing the empire's affairs. As a result, she had been going to the palace more often. The sun was about to set, and she finally had time to return to her residence. Chihiro Snow gently rubbed her head and sighed. There were too many things to do in the Heaven Do Empire. After a day of dealing with them, even she felt a little dizzy. It took a lot of effort to deal with these things. "Young mistress, are you all right? Do you need me to call for the imperial physician?" The snake-spear Douluo hurriedly asked when he saw that Chihiro Snow seemed a little uncomfortable. "I'm fine. There's no need to trouble yourself. I'm just a little dizzy from dealing with too many documents." I'll be fine after some rest. Chihiro Snow said softly. Young mistress, shall we send you back to your room now? The snakespear Douluo asked. No, let's go to the study first. I remember that there are still some documents in the study that I haven't finished dealing with. They're related to Ibuchi. I have to take a look. Chihiro Snow said. Yes, young mistress, the snakespear Douluo said. Chen Renshue and the others walked in the direction of the study. Their footsteps were fast, so it didn't take long for them to arrive outside the study. Chihiro Snow placed her hands on the door and pushed it gently. Immediately, the door opened. Chihiro Snow stepped into the study and casually scanned the room. Suddenly, her gaze froze, and a look of astonishment appeared on her face. In her eyes, a handsome young man dressed in white was sitting in the seat that originally belonged to her, casually fiddling with a book in his hand. Hearing the sound of the door opening, he slightly tilted his head and looked at her walking into the study with a gentle smile on his face. You're back, he asked. Why are you here? Are you done with the Dragon King Hall? Chihiro Snow asked softly. This young man was none other than Lu Yuan. Other than Lu Yuan, no one else had the guts to swagger into the Crown Prince's study room alone. Things can never be settled. I just miss you. Lu Yuan smiled. Like hell I'd believe you. If you really missed me, you wouldn't have waited more than 3 months to visit me. Chihiro Snow glared at Lu Yuan with a hint of bitterness in his eyes. Lu Yuan stood up, walked to Chihiro Snow's side, and said with a chuckle, I have something to do and can't leave. You see, I've come to see you whenever I'm free. Who knows if what you said is true or not? Chihiro Snow curled his lips and said. You really don't know? Then isn't the information written on that document about me? Lu Yuan said, looking at Chihiro Snow with a faint smile. Hearing this, Chihiro Snow's face changed, and he hurriedly said, Ibuchi, I only sent people to collect information about you because I care about you. I didn't spy on you, nor did I want to pry into your privacy. Don't think too much. In fact, I only know that you have been busy with something in the Dragon King Hall, but I don't know what it is. She was afraid that Lu Yuan would think that she was spying on him, so she hurriedly explained. Don't worry, I didn't think too much. Why are you in such a hurry? Lu Yuan smiled. I was afraid that you would misunderstand. Chihiro Snow pouted and said. Oh, am I such a person who can't see the situation clearly? You underestimate me too much. It doesn't matter if you send people to spy on my whereabouts, as long as you don't keep an eye on me at all times and places. As for collecting information about me, many organizations are doing this. It's just that how many of them know what I do every day? That's why I'm not angry at all. You did this because you care about me, right? I understand what you're thinking. Lu Yuan smiled and stretched out his hands to gently pull Chihiro Snow into his embrace. At the same time, he removed the disguise on her face. Suddenly, the beautiful Chihiro Snow was back. Don't, there are still people watching outside. Chihiro Snow's body trembled slightly as Lu Yuan hugged her gently. Her face flushed red as she spoke softly. Is that so? Lu Yuan glanced around, and the snakespear Douluo and the thorny pufferfish Douluo entered his vision. It was indeed the 2 old men. Seniors, long time no see. Lu Yuan spoke softly. Greetings, Your Highness. The snakespear Douluo and the thorny pufferfish Douluo bowed to Lu Yuan at the same time. Now that Lu Yuan was the Holy Sun, it was different from before. In the past, they could greet Lu Yuan whenever they saw him, and they didn't have to bow to him. But now, they had to bow to Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan's status was the highest after the Pope, and he was above the elders. Even the chrysanthemum Douluo and the ghost Douluo had to bow to Lu Yuan. This was the status of the Holy Sun in the martial Soul Palace. Yes. Seeing the 2 of them bow to him, Lu Yuan nodded gently. He said plainly, Seniors, you can leave first. I have something to say to share. Yes, Holy Sun. After hearing Lu Yuan's words, the 2 of them walked away. He waved his sleeves gently, and the door of the study closed. Only Chihiro Snow and Lu Yuan were left in the study. Looking at Chihiro Snow's beautiful face, Lu Yuan couldn't help but call out, Share. He lowered his head gently. Seeing this, Chihiro Snow blushed, but she still graciously moved her lips forward. 15 minutes later, Lu Yuan sat on a chair in the study, and placed Chihiro Snow's body on his lap. His left hand gently wrapped around Chihiro Snow's waist. Chihiro Snow lay quietly in Lu Yuan's arms. Her beautiful face was calm, and her expression was peaceful. Lu Yuan gently caressed Chihiro Snow's face, and there was a tinge of pity in his eyes. "Cher, I haven't seen you for 3 months, and you've lost a lot of weight. Your complexion doesn't look good. Are you overworked again? You have to pay attention to your body. Although national affairs are important, your body is even more important. It's not worth it to exhaust your body for these things," Lu Yuan said softly. Hearing Lu Yuan's slightly reproachful words, Chihiro Snow smiled sweetly. Her eyes were filled with happiness. The deep concern in his words made her feel very comfortable. "It's okay, Abuchi. I'm a soul emperor. My body is fine. It's just that I've been dealing with a lot of documents today, so I'm a little dizzy," Chihiro Snow said softly. "You still have the nerve to say that? A dignified soul emperor dealing with national affairs until you're dizzy, aren't you working too hard? Even if you don't feel sorry for yourself, I do." Lu Yuan rolled his eyes at Chihiro Snow. His right hand gently pressed Chihiro Snow's head, and white clear divine power slowly poured into Chihiro Snow's body, relieving her fatigue. It had to be said that the clear divine power was indeed useful. After a while, Chihiro Snow's beautiful face was rosy again, and she was in high spirits. Chapter 569. How do you feel? Lu Yuan asked softly as he retracted his finger. "I feel pretty good. It's as if all my fatigue has completely dissipated. I'm not dizzy at all. I feel refreshed and energized. Little Yuan, your clear chi divine power is really useful," Chen Renshue said with a face full of praise. "It's useful, but I can't always stay by your side. I can't help you recover any time. You have to know how to take care of yourself. Don't push yourself too hard." Lu Yuan pinched Chihiro Snow's cheeks and said softly, "Okay, I know." Chihiro Snow nodded and grabbed Lu Yuan's hand. She placed it on her face. Her golden eyes were like water as she quietly sized up Lu Yuan. Her eyes were filled with deep affection. "I haven't come to find you for 3 months. Did you miss me?" Lu Yuan stared into Chihiro Snow's eyes and asked softly. "Yes, I missed you every day. It's just that I couldn't leave. Otherwise, I would have gone to find you." Chihiro Snow's pleasant voice rang out. Her voice was filled with longing. "Ah, me too. I've been busy refining soul tools and pills for the past 3 months. I also had to train my team and prepare for the tournament. There were a lot of things to do. I only found some time to visit you today," Lu Yuan said. "Refining soul tools and pills?" Chihiro Snow asked softly. "Are you refining soul tools for the 7 Treasures Glazed sect? And the pills, are they the longevity pills and ageless pills that have been hyped up?" "Yes." Lu Yuan nodded and smiled. He withdrew his hand from Chihiro Snow's face as she looked at him doubtfully. He waved his hand gently, and a bright blue pill with beautiful cloud patterns appeared in Lu Yuan's hand. "Cher, open your mouth." Lu Yuan's voice rang out. Chihiro Snow couldn't help but open her bright red lips when she heard this. Lu Yuan gently pushed the bright blue pill into Chihiro Snow's mouth. The pill melted in her mouth and directly entered Chihiro Snow's stomach. "Abuchi, what was that pill?" Chihiro Snow couldn't help but ask curiously. She knew Lu Yuan's love for her, and she also knew that Lu Yuan wouldn't harm her. That was why she ate the pill without any hesitation. But she was still a little curious. She wanted to know what the pill was. The pill just now was a face-retaining pill, and it's a top-grade one. Ordinary face-retaining pills can only preserve one's youth, but they can't make one's old face look younger. However, a top-grade face-retaining pill can. It can restore the user's appearance to the best age and then maintain it. Of course, it's useless to my precious Shuer, because you're in your most beautiful years right now, so you basically can't see anything. However, from now on, your appearance will forever remain the appearance of a 20-year-old. Lu Yuan said with a smile. So this is the face-retaining pill. Chihiro Snow nodded lightly, then asked, did Zhu Zhuqing and the others eat it too? No. Lu Yuan shook his head and said, Zhuqing is still young. She's still growing. Taking the face-retaining pill now will harm her. As for senior sister, I haven't had the time to give it to her yet. I'll give it to her after the finals and when we arrive at Martial Spirit City. Oh. Chihiro Snow said softly, then asked, what about Jiu Yuana? She. Lu Yuan hesitated for a moment, but when he met Chihiro Snow's gaze, he still said it. You'll find out about this sooner or later, so I'll tell you a bit first. The face-retaining pill is useless to because she's already young. Her appearance won't change even after thousands of years. Lu Yuan said. It seems like my guess was right. She's not human at all. She's a god, right? Chihiro Snow looked at Lu Yuan with a burning gaze, then said, when I saw her, I already had a guess. Her aura is much stronger than my grandfather and the Dragon Emperor Douluo. It can even be said that the difference between heaven and earth. At that time, I already had a guess, but I didn't expect it to be so. You're very charming. Even a god fell in love with you. Chihiro Snow looked at Lu Yuan and laughed softly. Isn't it necessary for me to be charming? Otherwise, how could I capture your heart? Lu Yuan chuckled. Hearing this, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but roll her eyes at him, but she didn't refute. After all, she fell in love with Lu Yuan, and Lu Yuan's extraordinary appearance had something to do with Lu Yuan. Oh right, Abuchi, why are you looking for me today? Chihiro Snow changed the topic, and asked Lu Yuan why he was here today. It's nothing. I already said that I'm only here to see you. Lu Yuan said with a smile. Forget it. You might be able to fool others, but you can't fool me. Your eyes clearly tell me that you have something important to discuss with me. Otherwise, with your personality, you wouldn't have just kissed me. At the very least, you would have. At least what? Lu Yuan asked with a smile. You know what I know. Chihiro Snow glared at Lu Yuan and blushed. Haha. Seeing Chihiro Snow's blushing face, Lu Yuan chuckled and stopped teasing her. He'll tease her at night. Let's talk about business first. I really can't hide anything from you. Lu Yuan sighed. He looked into Chihiro Snow's golden eyes and asked, Emperor Shui wants to rope in the Dragon King Hall. You should know about this, right? Yes, I know. After all, the Dragon King Hall is very strong now. It's normal for him to rope in you. He's always wanted to rope in some powerful soul master sects, but it's a pity that the Seven Treasures Glazed sect is the only one that supports the Heaven Do Imperial family. The Clear Sky sect has always been in seclusion, and the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect has always been neutral. He doesn't have any goals. Now that the Dragon King Hall has appeared, it's normal for him to choose to rope you in. With the Dragon King Hall's support, the Heaven Do Imperial family's reputation will rise, and the Heaven Do Empire will become more secure. At the same time, he can borrow your strength to fight against the Martial Soul Palace. This is what Emperor Shui is thinking. Chihiro Snow explained. Yes. Lu Yuan nodded. Chihiro Snow was right. This was what Emperor Shui was thinking. However, Abuchi, if you enter the center of power of the Heaven Do Empire as the Dragon King Hall Lord, you'll be able to help me. If we work together, it'll be easier for us to get rid of those who oppose us. It'll be easier for us to take control of the Heaven Do Empire. Therefore, Abuchi, you must agree to cooperate with the Heaven Do Imperial family. Chihiro Snow looked straight at Lu Yuan. Chapter 570. Must. Hearing Chihiro Snow's words, Lu Yuan couldn't help but raise his eyebrows slightly. He looked at Chihiro Snow calmly. Are you trying to persuade me? Or are you ordering me? It's been a long time since someone dared to speak to me in such a tone. Lu Yuan said indifferently. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but stare blankly. She carefully looked at Lu Yuan and suddenly felt that the current Lu Yuan was a bit unfamiliar. He was less gentle and had more of the domineering majesty of a high and mighty emperor. This was something she had never felt from Lu Yuan before. "Abuchi, what's wrong?" Chihiro Snow couldn't help but ask softly. Her pair of golden eyes looked at Lu Yuan, and there was a trace of fear in her heart. This was the first time she felt this way towards Lu Yuan. "I'm fine," Lu Yuan said. "No, the majesty on your body right now is making me a bit scared," Chihiro Snow said softly. Hearing this, Lu Yuan couldn't help but frown. Looking at Chihiro Snow's jade-like beautiful face and her timid eyes, his heart couldn't help but soften, and his entire aura instantly relaxed. "I'm really fine. I just hate it when people talk to me in such a commanding tone. I apologize for scaring you just now, Cher." Lu Yuan pulled Chihiro Snow into his arms and gently patted Chihiro Snow's back. "No need to apologize to me. It's just that, Abuchi, I really feel that there's something wrong with your state. You weren't like this before." Chihiro Snow's red lips opened slightly and said softly, "Is that so?" Upon hearing Chihiro Snow's words, Lu Yuan's heart froze. He carefully recalled that he seemed to be more dignified than before. It was as if he hated it from the bottom of his heart when others spoke to him in a commanding tone, and this situation seemed to be getting worse. In fact, Chihiro Snow's tone just now was quite tactful, but the word "be sure" struck a nerve, causing a surge of anger in his heart to explode. It was as if his authority had been violated, and he felt that Chihiro Snow was ordering him around. Therefore, he unconsciously exuded the majesty of an emperor. Now that he thought about it, there was something wrong with this situation. Although he never liked others ordering him around, his reaction this time was a little too sensitive and intense. However, when he scanned his entire body with his spiritual power, he did not find anything wrong. Furthermore, there was no reaction from the clear chi divine power and the clear chi scripture. This meant that everything was normal. There was nothing bad that affected his emotions. But what was going on? This state couldn't have appeared for no reason, right? He was a little puzzled in his heart, so he prepared to ask his cheat system, "What's going on with my current situation?" Lu Yuan asked softly. "The host's golden dragon bloodline is already on the verge of evolution. It's not far from a complete transformation. Dragons are proud. Moreover, the host will advance to the Dragon King realm this time. Under such circumstances, it's very normal for the host's majesty to increase greatly." The system's cold voice sounded. "So you mean that my bloodline is not far from a complete transformation?" Hearing this, Lu Yuan could not help but feel a little excited. Yes, it can be as early as 1 year or as slow as 2 years. The host's bloodline will completely transform. Due to the influence of the clear chi divine power, the host's bloodline has already embarked on its own path. Once it transforms, no one or beast's bloodline in the entire Douluo continent will be able to suppress the host. The system said. Then what if it's compared to the dragon god's bloodline? Lu Yuan could not help but ask. It's not inferior to the dragon god's bloodline. The system's cold voice sounded again. Is that so? That's great. Hearing the system's words, Lu Yuan could not help but feel happy in his heart. At most 2 years. It seems that 2 years later, when the bloodline completely evolves, he can really take off. However, Lu Yuan's thoughts turned and he asked, then what should I do with my current state? My excessive reaction just now scared Cher. There's no other way. This is the unique majesty of the Dragon King. It's similar to an instinct and cannot be dispelled. However, the solution is also very simple. Just tell her not to say those words that have the meaning of command in the future. As long as you don't trigger it, nothing will happen. When your bloodline completely transforms and stabilizes, you can completely control it. This state will disappear. The system said. Is that so? Hearing this, Lu Yuan nodded lightly. It seemed that this was the only way. Looking at Chihiro Snow in his arms, Lu Yuan's eyes were filled with tenderness, and then he told Chihiro Snow what the system had just said. So that's how it is. After listening to Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow nodded and her heart relaxed a lot. She thought that Lu Yuan's love for her had changed. He actually released his majesty to her and spoke to her in that tone. It turned out that it was not his original intention. It was just the influence of the bloodline approaching the transformation. Ibuchi is still the same Ibuchi, and his love for her has not changed. That's good. It's just that I have to pay attention to what I say in the future. Don't say these words with the tone of command, so as not to cause an excessive reaction in Ibuchi. Cher, what are you thinking about? Are you still thinking about what happened just now? Looking at Chihiro Snow's silence, Lu Yuan couldn't help but gently stroke her pretty face and asked softly. En. Chihiro Snow nodded and winked at Lu Yuan playfully. She sighed and said, "It seems that I have to pay attention to what I say in the future. Otherwise, if I provoke you again, I will be scared again." Chihiro Snow said and couldn't help but reveal a smile. You. Snappily poking Chihiro Snow's nose, Lu Yuan knew that this girl was deliberately joking to liven up the atmosphere. The effect was not bad. The atmosphere between the two became relaxed again. "Come on, Cher, I'll give you a gift as an apology." Lu Yuan smiled slightly. What gift? Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow was a little curious for a moment. It's this. Lu Yuan turned his palm slightly, and a piece of silver token with a golden dragon engraved on it appeared in Lu Yuan's hand. This is. Looking at this token, Chihiro Snow was a little curious for a moment. This is the Dragon King's decree. You can refer to the Pope's decree and the Angel's decree for specific effects. With this Dragon King's decree, you can mobilize the team of our Dragon King Palace. All the teams below the elder level of the Dragon King Palace will be at your disposal. Lu Yuan said softly. Why are you giving me this? Chihiro Snow asked. I want to give it to you, so I'll give it to you. Besides, my Dragon King Palace is your Dragon King Palace. Naturally, you can mobilize it. You won't treat me as an outsider, right? Lu Yuan said. Who will treat you as an outsider? With that, Chihiro Snow took the Dragon King's decree from Lu Yuan's hand and looked at it carefully. Chapter 571. Seeing Chihiro Snow accept the Dragon King's token without hesitation, Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile. That's right. Since he gave it to him, he should accept it generously. Why should he be polite with him? One must know that when he received the Angel token and the Pope token, he was not polite at all. And now, he had a Holy Son's token in his hand. An exclusive token belonging to the Holy Son. Speaking of which, he now had a lot of tokens in his hand. The Pope's token, the Angel token, the Holy Son's token, and his own Dragon King's token. Each of these tokens had great power. If it were anyone else, as long as they had one of these tokens, they would be able to do whatever they wanted on the mainland. As long as the token was out, no one would dare to cause trouble. Of course, for Lu Yuan, these tokens were just symbols. His words were much more effective than these tokens. Chihiro Snow looked at it for a while, and then put away the Dragon King's token. Ibuchi, let me up. Chihiro Snow said softly. What? I haven't hugged enough yet. Lu Yuan muttered. Hearing this, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but roll his eyes at Lu Yuan, and said snappily, Let me up, I have something for you. You can give it to me while I'm sitting. Lu Yuan said. Listening to Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow didn't say anything, and just looked at him quietly. Forget it. Being stared at by Chihiro Snow, Lu Yuan really couldn't stand it, and immediately let go of Chihiro Snow. Chihiro Snow stood up and walked to the side of the desk. With a slight wave of his hand, 4 wooden boxes appeared on the desk. Seeing this scene, Lu Yuan understood a little. No wonder Chihiro Snow had to stand up. These 4 wooden boxes really couldn't be held with 2 hands. Cher, what's inside? Looking at the 4 wooden boxes, Lu Yuan couldn't help but ask. Why don't you guess? Chihiro Snow said with a smile. Can you guess what the benefits are? Lu Yuan asked. If you guessed correctly, I'll listen to you tonight. Chihiro Snow winked at Lu Yuan and chuckled. Hehe, Cher, when did you learn to speak like this? But I like it. I won't be able to guess, but it won't be hard to find out what's inside. Lu Yuan's eyes lit up as he spoke. You're not allowed to peek with your polychoria. Chihiro Snow rolled her eyes at Lu Yuan in annoyance. She wanted Lu Yuan to guess, But this guy actually cheated. What's the point of this? Chihiro Snow's red lips slightly pouted. She couldn't be bothered to keep Lu Yuan in suspense. With a wave of her hand, the lids of the 4 wooden boxes were opened at the same time. Suddenly, a strong wave of energy swept out in an instant. Soul bones. Seeing the things inside the wooden boxes, Lu Yuan couldn't help but have a look of surprise on his face. It wasn't because he had never seen a soul bone before, but because he was shocked by Chihiro Snow's generosity. Cher was really generous to give him 4 soul bones at once. That's right, these are soul bones. Chihiro Snow smiled and said, the 2 on the left are the soul bones of the Blood Emperor from last time. After he was killed by Jiyu Yuena, I kept his soul bones. They happen to be a 20,000-year skull bone and a 50,000-year right arm bone. Since Jiyu Yuena killed him, I'll give them to you. The remaining 2 are gifts from me. A few days ago, I raided the houses of a few aristocrats who didn't see eye to eye with me and obtained these 2 soul bones. Both of them are leg bones, but their age is low. They're both 1,000 year. I have no use for them, so I might as well give them to you. It just so happens that you want to establish a force, so they should be useful. Chihiro Snow said. They are indeed useful, but giving me 4 soul bones at once is too much of a gift. I have no way to repay you. How about I use my body to repay you? I won't leave tonight. How about I stay and accompany you? Lu Yuan looked at Chihiro Snow playfully and said, Go to hell, you're not serious. You speak as if you'll leave tonight if I don't give you the soul bones. Do you think I don't know what you're thinking? Chihiro Snow said in annoyance. Hee hee. Hearing this, Lu Yuan couldn't help but chuckle. It seemed like his share really understood him. I have 4 more soul bones. It seems like my collection of soul bones is getting more and more abundant. Lu Yuan sighed softly and waved his hand slightly. Suddenly, a sea of soul bones with flowing lights and vibrant colors appeared on the table, and a strong energy wave swept out. These 5 soul bones belong to Tang Hao. The best quality ones are these 2 inherited soul bones from the Clear Sky sect. They're about 90,000 years old. The next is the torso bone, which is about 40,000 years old. There's also the skull bone, which is 30,000 years old. These 2 left arm bones were obtained when I hunted those evil soul masters in the dense fog forest. One is 10,000 years old, and the other is 8,000 years old. And this illusion skull bone, which I obtained after killing Shenyan from the Tsanghui Academy. It's slightly more than 10,000 years old, less than 20,000 years old. In addition to the 4 soul bones that you gave me, Cher, I now have 12 soul bones. Lu Yuan chuckled. Your collection of soul bones can't be compared to some of the big powers. Chihiro Snow laughed softly. Perhaps. It's a pity that these soul bones are too young, and I can't use any of them. After all, I'm someone who wants to have soul bones that are more than 100,000 years old. These soul bones can only be given to others. Lu Yuan sighed softly and said. Hearing this, Chihiro Snow's mouth couldn't help but twitch slightly. If someone else had heard Lu Yuan's words, they might have had the urge to beat him up. After all, soul bones were hard to come by, and it was already considered a blessing for an ordinary person to obtain even one. This fellow had as many as 12, yet he was still being so picky. However, Chihiro Snow's mouth only twitched slightly, and he returned to normal after a while. After all, Lu Yuan wanted to have soul bones that were more than 100,000 years old, and she, Chihiro Snow, was not inferior. Every soul bone in her angel set was 99,999 years old. As long as she absorbed 6 of them and became a god, she would also be able to upgrade all of them to 100,000 years old. After all, who didn't have cheats these days? Although Chihiro Snow's cheats were not as big as Lu Die's, she still had cheats. There was a saying, if you're not a family, you won't enter a family. This saying was true. Lu Yuan and his 4 women all had cheats. Not to mention the other 3, even Jiyu Yuena had consecutively activated 2 cheats, the Life Spirit Crystal and the Secret of Swordsman. Otherwise, it would take her at least 20,000 years to recover, and she wouldn't have been able to fully recover by now. Why aren't you putting them away? Are you setting up a stall? Seeing Lu Yuan putting all the soul bones on the table and looking at them with interest, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but say aloud, "Hey, don't be in such a hurry. I'm just trying to see how rich I am. It's not fun anyway, so I can only count the soul bones to pass the time," Lu Yuan said with a chuckle. Hearing this, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but reveal a trace of black lines on his forehead. Where did Lu Yuan get these weird interests from? Thinking about it, Chihiro Snow shook his head helplessly. Chapter 572. The sky gradually darkened. Lu Yuan and Chihiro Snow sat opposite each other in the dining hall as they ate. There were only Lu Yuan and Chihiro Snow in the huge dining hall. To prevent their identities from being exposed, the snake spear Douluo had personally delivered the food. "Cher, how long has it been since we sat down and had a proper meal together?" Lu Yuan asked softly as he gently put down his chopsticks. "It's been a long time. The last time we sat down and had a meal alone was a year ago," Chihiro Snow said. "Ah, I'm not a good boyfriend. I can't even eat with you every day." Lu Yuan sighed softly. "It's not your fault. You have things to do, and so do I. We both have important responsibilities. After the Martial Soul Palace unifies the continent, we'll have plenty of time to get along." Chihiro Snow said gently. "Yes, Cher, you're right. As long as the continent isn't unified, we can't let go of our responsibilities. These troublesome matters won't end." Lu Yuan sighed softly. After sighing softly, Lu Yuan glanced at the six-winged angel's brand on Chihiro Snow's head. He thought of something and asked, "Cher, have you triggered your second test?" "No." After hearing this, Chihiro Snow shook his head and said, "I haven't received any news about the second test." "What about you? Have you triggered the second test of the Holy Sword test?" "If you haven't, how can I have?" Lu Yuan smiled and said, "My assessment is to serve your assessment. Generally speaking, after the first assessment is over, the second assessment will begin soon. However, our situation seems to be a little different." "Yes." Qian Runxue nodded slightly and said, "This should be the first time in history that a test like ours has happened. I've never heard of a god sending down 2 tests. It's normal for there to be some differences." "That's true." Lu Yuan smiled faintly and did not comment further. "By the way, Abuchi, what's your decision on cooperating with the Heaven Do Empire? From our point of view, accepting the Snow Emperor's invitation is very beneficial to our plan." Chihiro Snow said, "I've already thought about it. If you can think of it, I can naturally think of it too. However, if we were to be roped in so easily without any obstruction or reason, it would be easy to be suspected. Therefore, other than trying to get more benefits when I negotiate with the Snowy Night Emperor, we also need to send a signal." "What signal?" Chihiro Snow asked. "It's a sign of friction with the Martial Soul Palace," Lu Yuan said with a faint smile. "Oh, what do you mean? Hurry up and tell me." Chihiro Snow was a little curious and hurriedly asked. "It's very simple. In the eyes of others, our Dragon King Palace and the Martial Soul Palace don't interfere with each other's business. What I want to do now is to create some friction for others to see," Lu Yuan said. "Then how do you plan to create friction?" Chihiro Snow asked. "For this, we'll have to let that old man, Sarkaz, come out and show his existence." Lu Yuan smiled. "Sarkaz?" Chihiro Snow was a little puzzled. Seeing Chihiro Snow's puzzled expression, Lu Yuan smiled and said, "Don't you know that Sarkaz is the Continental Elite Soul Master Tournament's Heaven Do Division's lot drawing contestant?" "I know, but what does this have to do with what you're saying?" Chihiro Snow asked. "We can get Sarkaz to arrange an interesting team to fight against my Heavenly Star Academy. After that, we'll make them lose miserably. It'll be best if this team has a good relationship with the Martial Soul Palace," Lu Yuan said. "You're talking about the Elephant Academy?" After hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow immediately reacted. If there was a team in the Heaven Do division that had a good relationship with the Martial Soul Palace, it would definitely be the Elephant Academy. This was because the Elephant Academy's backer was the Elephant Sect, and the Elephant Sect had always had a close relationship with the Martial Soul Palace. If the Elephant Academy lost miserably, it wouldn't look good for the elephant sect. If they offended the elephant sect, it would mean that they would have a small conflict with the martial Soul Palace. However, this alone isn't enough. After all, this is a competition. Even if the Elephant Academy loses, it can only be said that they're inferior. Although the elephant sect has always been close to the martial Soul Palace, they're still not a martial Soul Palace sect. If we offend them, we'll have a small conflict with the martial Soul Palace, but this conflict isn't enough. Chihiro Snow said. Of course I know this. This is just one of the reasons. Lu Yuan smiled faintly and asked, is this old man Sarkaz obsessed with power? Is he greedy and stingy, and likes to take advantage of others? That's true, but Sarkaz is still loyal to the martial Soul Palace. Chihiro Snow nodded and said. And I remember that Sarkaz isn't young anymore. Lu Yuan smiled. Yes, Sarkaz is already over 90 years old, Chihiro Snow replied. Then it's easy. We can spread the news that Sarkaz sent people to the Dragon King Palace to buy longevity pills. Due to a dispute over the price, they refused to pay enough. Instead, they wanted to use the power of the martial Soul Palace to force the purchase. In the end, they were kicked out by me. After Sarkaz found out, he threw a tantrum in the martial Soul Palace and said that he would teach me a lesson. He also secretly sent people to interfere with the business of the Dragon King Palace. After a few rounds of fighting, the Dragon King Palace temporarily gained the upper hand. After all, the martial Soul Palace is definitely not as powerful as the Dragon King Palace. However, Sarkaz has been unwilling to give up and wants to take revenge in secret. Cher, what do you think of my idea? Lu Yuan asked with a smile. It sounds okay, and it fits your and Sarkaz's character. Sarkaz is greedy and stingy, and likes to take advantage of others, so he definitely won't be willing to pay a high price. Moreover, with his style, it's normal for him to secretly threaten the martial Soul Palace. In their eyes, you have always been arrogant and don't care about anything. It's reasonable for you to kick them out. If this news spreads, they shouldn't be suspicious. And the series of actions that followed will unfold naturally. Then, your Heavenly Star Academy team will meet the Elephant Academy team in the competition. It can be understood that Sarkaz deliberately arranged it to take revenge on you. He wanted to defeat your Heavenly Star Academy. After all, the relationship between your Heavenly Star Academy and the Dragon King Palace is unknown to others, but the Snowy Night Emperor, Sarkaz, and the others know. But the result is that your Heavenly Star Academy team suffered a crushing defeat. Sarkaz's arrangements all went down the drain. Instead, his face was slapped painfully. In this way, the news of the Dragon King Palace and the martial Soul Palace being at odds will be even more deeply rooted in people's hearts. The Snowy Night Emperor will also lower his guard against your Dragon King Palace and will be more eager to rope in your Dragon King Palace. Chapter 573. This is what you're thinking, isn't it, Abuchi? Chihiro Snow said with a smile. Indeed, my Cher is so smart. I can't hide anything from you. I just said it casually, and you connected all the connections. Impressive, impressive. Lu Yuan praised. What's so impressive about that? You've already said so much. If I still can't figure it out, I'll be a little too stupid. Chihiro Snow rolled his eyes at Lu Yuan and said with a smile. Haha. Lu Yuan chuckled after being rolled his eyes at by Chihiro Snow. He didn't mind at all. However, Abuchi, although there aren't any major problems with your plan, you have to be careful when you implement it. Try to make it as realistic as possible. After all, Ningfengji and the others are all sly old foxes. They can discover anything that's not right. Of course. For this plan, the Dragon King Palace can only deliberately compromise some benefits. For example, how many carts of agility tea leaves have been burned, and how many storage-type soul tools have been destroyed? How many people have been accidentally injured? I will unintentionally leak this information. Lu Yuan said with a smile. After hearing Lu Yuan's words, Chihiro Snow raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, Sly old fox. Hey, what do you mean by sly old fox? Don't you know how to talk? This is called being resourceful. When I was designing, I took into consideration my personality, Sokka's personality, and the style of the martial soul palace. The plan is so detailed. Isn't that being resourceful? Lu Yuan looked at Chihiro Snow with dissatisfaction. Yes, yes, yes. You're resourceful. He looked at Lu Yuan and said helplessly. You're too perfunctory. You're not sincere. Lu Yuan said plainly. Hearing this, Chihiro Snow didn't know whether to laugh or cry. After a while, Chihiro Snow regained his serious look, and softly said to Lu Yuan, then I'm afraid I'll have to inform Sarkis about this matter. Of course. If you want to put on a show, you have to go all the way. This time, except for a few people who know my real identity, including my Dragon King Palace, everyone is in the plan. If you want to deceive old foxes like Snowy Night Emperor and Ning Fengji, you have to deceive your own people first. After all, the Snowy Night Emperor and the others will definitely ask Douluo Bo to understand the situation. If the arrangement is not in place, it will be exposed. Therefore, I have to deceive Douluo Bo and the others as well. Only the most honest reaction can make these old foxes believe. After all, not everyone has the ability to lie with their eyes open and their heart beating fast. Lu Yuan said indifferently. Yes, what you said makes sense. Chihiro Snow nodded at first. After that, he seemed to have discovered something. He stared at Lu Yuan and examined him. What did you say just now? You said that you can lie with your eyes open and your heart beating fast. Then, when you told me those things in the past, did you also lie? After hearing this, Lu Yuan was shocked. He realized that he had miscalculated. Just now, he had blurted out this sentence. When he thought about what he had said to Chihiro Snow, he realized that there were indeed some lies. For example, he had lied about Long Xiaoyao's origin, the origin of soul tools, and so on. After all, these things involved the system. He couldn't explain it clearly, and could only bluff his way through. However, he was a little panicky now that Chihiro Snow had asked him this. However, even though he was a little guilty, his expression didn't change at all. He couldn't admit to something like this. Therefore, the look in his eyes changed. His eyes were filled with deep emotions. He said, how can that be? That's only to others. I've always been telling the truth to you, Cher. Really? Chihiro Snow stared straight at Lu Yuan. Really? I can swear to the heavens that if I've lied to you in any way, my intestines will be pierced and my heart will be bitten by 10,000 snakes. Lu Yuan said with a righteous look on his face. Abuchi. After hearing Lu Yuan's oath, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but exclaim softly. He was very touched. Then, Cher, do you believe me? Lu Yuan asked. I do. I believe that everything you've said is true. Chihiro Snow hurriedly said. After hearing this, Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile. He was very pleased with himself. Pierced intestines? I have the esoteric character. I can recover it easily. Bitten by 10,000 snakes. I'm the owner of the Golden Dragon bloodline. I'm about to evolve to a higher realm. If any snake dares to approach me, I can scare them away with just a little pressure. It's impossible for them to bite me. Therefore, this oath doesn't hurt me at all. However, seeing how touched his baby Cher was, Lu Yuan secretly thought that he should make a few more oaths in the future. However, after thinking for a while, Lu Yuan retracted his thoughts. He looked at Chihiro Snow opposite him, smiled slightly, and said, Cher, let's hurry up and eat. After we finish eating, there's still business waiting for us. As soon as he said this, a red glow crept up Chihiro Snow's cheeks. Her face was full of shyness. A pair of beautiful eyes stared at Lu Yuan reproachfully. However, she didn't say any words of objection. She just unconsciously sped up her eating speed. Another 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. During these 2 days, something big happened in the Heaven Do Empire. The Dragon King Palace's Palace Master and the Platinum Bishop of the Martial Soul Temple, Sarkis, had an argument. Sarkis sent someone to the Dragon King Palace to purchase longevity pills. Because he couldn't bear to spend the money, he even tried to use the might of the Martial Soul Palace to pressure the Dragon King Palace. In the end, the Dragon King Palace's Palace Master kicked him out. One of his arms was even broken. It was rumored that the poisoned Douluo Dugu Bo did it personally. The Platinum Bishop naturally wouldn't take this lying down. He threw a tantrum in the martial Soul Temple and declared that he would teach the Dragon King Palace a lesson. There were even rumors that Sarkaz sent someone to attack the Dragon King Palace's transport team. As a result, many people from the Dragon King Palace were injured, and all the goods were burned to the ground. The Dragon King Palace naturally didn't back down. It was rumored that the Dragon Emperor Douluo personally barged into the martial Soul Temple and gave Sarkaz a good beating. It was rumored that Sarkaz's head was swollen. Sarkaz also stopped and didn't do anything else. However, everyone knew one thing: the martial Soul Temple and the Dragon King Palace were going to fight. Of course, for ordinary organizations, these things were just stories. However, for some of the top-tier organizations, they smelled something different. They felt that there was something to be gained from this. Among them, there were two people who were the most representative. One was the Snowy Night Emperor, while the other was Ning Fengji. The two of them had one thing in common: they were both against the martial Soul Palace. Chapter 574. What happened today undoubtedly gave them hope of winning over the Dragon King Palace. Since the martial Soul Palace and the Dragon King Palace had a conflict, it would be much easier to win over the Dragon King Palace. As a matter of fact, the two of them got together again and were discussing Lu Yuan. Sect Master Ning, do you think the news from Heaven Do Imperial City is credible? The Snowy Night Emperor asked. Your Majesty, in my opinion, it is credible. Ning Fengji said. Oh, why? Can Sect Master Ning explain it to this emperor? The Snowy Night Emperor asked. Of course. Let me analyze it for your Majesty. Ning Fengji said softly. First of all, Sarkaz sent someone to buy the longevity pill. We can all understand this. Sarkaz is old and doesn't have much lifespan left. Under such circumstances, I think he must be interested in the Dragon King Palace's longevity pill. After all, no one can resist the temptation of being able to live for another 10 or 20 years. I think the Emperor should understand this point. Hearing this, the Snowy Night Emperor nodded. His body wasn't in good condition and he didn't have much lifespan left. Therefore, he also yearned for the longevity pill. Therefore, he could understand Sarkaz's actions. The next problem is the price of the longevity pill. Since this longevity pill has the miraculous effect of prolonging one's lifespan, its price must be very high. Sarkaz is also known for being greedy and stingy. It is very difficult to make him pay too much for the longevity pill. Moreover, he is one of the 4 platinum bishops of the martial Soul Palace. His status is high and he has always been arrogant. He doesn't even put the empire in his eyes. Under such circumstances, it is normal for him to send someone to threaten the martial Soul Palace openly and secretly. After all, this is very similar to the martial Soul Palace's style. Ning Fengji said. That's true. The Snow Knight Heavenly Emperor gave a slight nod before suddenly asking, Sect Master Ning, I have a question. How expensive is this longevity pill? Even if Sarkaz is stingy, he wouldn't dare to fight with the Dragon King Palace over a few longevity pills. Although the martial Spirit Palace isn't afraid, the Dragon King Palace is also very powerful. Sarkaz isn't stupid. Since he dares to do this, could it be that the price of the longevity pills is too high? Hearing the Snowy Night Emperor's doubts, Ning Fengji smiled faintly and said, It's not ridiculously expensive, but it's not cheap either. I relied on my friendship with the Dragon King Palace's Palace Master Lu to purchase 10 longevity pills. However, I had to pay 10 million gold soul coins and half a kilogram of 7 treasures glazed tea for these 10 longevity pills. Furthermore, this is a friendship price. You can imagine that Sarkaz must have paid a higher price when he went to buy them. At least 2 to 3 million gold soul coins per pill. Your Majesty, do you think that Sarkaz is willing to pay such a price? Ning Fengji asked. Of course not. 2 to 3 million gold soul coins is enough to buy some soul bones of lower quality. A single longevity pill is so expensive. Even I would feel a little heartache if I were to buy a few at once. After all, Even though I have tiendo and have a lot of business, my expenses are also very high. The Snowy Night Emperor said. Yes, even the Heavenly Emperor would feel heartache, let alone Sarkis. Since he didn't want to pay such a high price, it's normal for him to use the Martial Soul Palace's power to threaten him secretly. However, he didn't expect to meet a tough nut, someone who is even more unscrupulous than the Martial Soul Palace. He immediately broke the arm of the person he sent and chased him out of the palace. He's so domineering. He didn't give the Martial Soul Palace any face at all. After all, Sarkis is a platinum bishop. After being humiliated like this, he naturally couldn't hold it in. He didn't dare to openly declare war against the Dragon King Palace, but he secretly targeted the Dragon King Palace's transport team. I heard that the Dragon King Palace suffered a lot this time. Although no one died, many were injured. The value of the goods lost was no less than 20 million gold soul coins. Ning Fengji said. The Dragon King Palace suffered such a huge loss. The Snowy Night Emperor was a little surprised. He thought that only a few carriages of goods were burned. He didn't expect the losses to be as high as 20 million gold soul coins. This was a huge sum. In all fairness, if he lost 20 million gold soul coins for no reason, he would feel heartache for a long time. Yes. Otherwise, Hallmaster Lu wouldn't have sent the Dragon Emperor Douluo out. He went straight to the Martial Soul Temple and caused a huge ruckus. I heard that Sarkis was hung up and beaten black and blue. The Dragon Emperor Douluo even took about 20 million golden soul coins worth of items from the Martial Soul Temple's treasury before he left. Ning Fengji said softly. Sarkis didn't react after being humiliated like this. The Snowy Night Emperor was a little curious. Given the Martial Soul Palace's domineering style, why did they stop just like that? It's not that they didn't react. They just didn't dare to do anything. An ultimate Douluo personally issued a warning. Even the Martial Soul Palace wouldn't do anything unless they wanted to start an all-out war, let alone Sarkis. Sarkis was originally very arrogant. He thought that the Dragon King Palace wouldn't do anything extreme even if they were furious. However, he didn't expect the Hall Master of the Dragon King Palace to be so fearless. He directly sent the Dragon Emperor Douluo and slapped Sarkis in the face. This way, Sarkis didn't dare to do anything. After all, they were in the wrong. There was no reason for them to seek revenge. Therefore, they could only stop. However, the Dragon King Palace and the Martial Soul Palace's feud has been formed. Your Majesty, this will be very beneficial for your next move to rope in the Dragon King Palace. Ning Fengji sighed softly. Sect Master Ning is right. This is indeed a great opportunity for us. Speaking of which, I should be thanking Sarkis. The Snowy Night Emperor laughed. Ning Fengji also smiled and did not comment. He also felt that Sarkis' assistance came at the perfect time. After all, Lu Yuan's attitude toward the Empire wasn't very good to begin with, and he didn't have a good opinion of the Empire either. It would be difficult to rope him in. However, the success rate was much higher now. For the sake of the Dragon King Palace, the possibility of cooperating with the Martial Soul Palace was greatly increased. Oh, yes. Sect Master Ning, I have a question. Can you answer it? The Snowy Night Emperor asked. Ask away, Your Majesty. I'll tell you everything I know. Ning Fengji said. Well, I'm very curious. Why is Sect Master Ning so clear about the casualties and losses of the Dragon King Palace? I don't know about this at all. The Snowy Night Emperor asked. Hearing this, Ning Fengji smiled faintly and said, I know so much because my daughter is in the Dragon King Palace. I got this information from my daughter. Oh, Miss Ning is in the Dragon King Palace? Hearing this, the Snowy Night Emperor was stunned at first. Then, he came to a sudden realization and his gaze became ambiguous. Sect Master Ning is really scheming. However, Miss Ning and Palace Master Lu Yuan are very compatible. Perhaps Sect Master Ning will have a young and talented son-in-law soon. Hearing the Snowy Night Emperor's words, Ning Fengji smiled faintly and didn't say anything. Chapter 575. Heaven Do Imperial City, Martial Soul Temple. Sarkis was lying on the bed. His head was still wrapped tightly with white bandages. He had no choice. Long Xiaoyao's beating wasn't fake. It was a real beating. Sarkis had been beaten up from head to toe. He had been beaten up in front of many deacons of the martial Soul Temple. Sarkis had really become famous this time. All the leaders of the major organizations in Heaven Do Imperial City knew that he had been beaten up. After all, such news couldn't be hidden in front of so many people. Of course, Lu Yuan didn't intend to hide it. This was what he wanted them to know. Ning Fengji's understanding of the situation was also what Lu Yuan wanted him to know. As for how to do it, it was actually very simple. Lu Yuan did not do anything. He just brought Ning Rongrong with him that day. As for the reason, it was not necessary at all. Lu Yuan only needed to say one sentence, and Ning Rongrong came over eagerly. She could not wait to be by Lu Yuan's side. Then, Ning Rongrong coincidentally found out everything that happened next. Ning Rongrong was also very innocent. She couldn't hide any secrets. Ning Fengji would know everything if he asked her. If Ning Fengji knew this, it meant that the Snowy Night Emperor knew too. Lu Yuan had achieved his goal. The whole thing could be said to be very cleverly arranged and would not arouse suspicion at all. If there was one thing that was not perfect, it would be that Fei Fei had indirectly used Ning Rongrong, taking advantage of her innocence and love for Lu Yuan. As a result, Lu Yuan felt a little guilty towards Ning Rongrong. He had been very nice to her over the past 2 days. He accompanied her around the Dragon King Hall and even gave her a Class 6 spiritual defensive soul tool that could resist spiritual attacks. This made Ning Rongrong think that Lu Yuan had accepted her. The smile on her face didn't fade for a long time. Right now, Lu Yuan had come to the martial Soul Temple. Sarkis. A figure suddenly appeared in Sarkis' room. This figure was dressed in white and had a triangular object flickering with resplendent blue light spinning in his hand. A faint voice came from this figure's mouth. "Who?" A voice suddenly rang out in the room, startling Sarkis, and he couldn't help but yell. He hurriedly got to his feet, and the appearance of a white-robed figure entered his eyes. "Your Highness." Sarkis was startled at the sight of the visitor's appearance. He hurriedly stood up and bowed slightly to Lu Yuan. "Greetings, Your Highness." "No need to be so courteous." Looking at Sarkis, Lu Yuan said indifferently, "Sarkis, do you resent me for beating you up to this extent?" Upon hearing Lu Yuan's words, Sarkis shuddered and hurriedly said, "Your Highness, you must be joking." "I wouldn't dare." "You don't dare, not you don't. Does that mean you have resentment in your heart?" Lu Yuan asked. I don't hold any grudges," Sarkis hurriedly explained. "You don't have to deny it. I beat you up for no reason, so it's normal for you to have resentment. I'm not an unreasonable person." As Lu Yuan spoke, he waved his hand gently, and a dense white light engulfed Sarkis. It was the clear aura divine power. In just a short while, Sarkis' injuries were completely healed. Elder Dragon Emperor's soul power contains the power of extreme darkness. It's difficult for you to remove it with your cultivation, so your recovery will be slower. Thus, I helped you heal it, Lu Yuan said plainly. "Thank you, Your Highness Chosen One. Your Highness Chosen One is truly extraordinary," Sarkis complimented. This time, he wasn't being perfunctory, but sincere. He was indeed shocked by Lu Yuan's methods. It wasn't that he hadn't hired a healing soul master before, but Long Xiaoyao's soul power rank was too high, and the healing effect wasn't very obvious. Thus, he had always wrapped his head with a white veil. After all, it wasn't good to be beaten black and blue. Lu Yuan opened his right hand, and a jade bottle appeared in his hand. He tossed it at Sarkis, who hurriedly caught it and held it in his palm. This jade bottle contains longevity pills. There are 2 of them, and they can increase your lifespan by 10 years. Take it as compensation for the beating you received this time, Lu Yuan said softly. Longevity pills? Sarkis was delighted when he heard this, and he opened the jade bottle to take a look. Sure enough, there were 2 round medicinal pills within, and a refreshing fragrance assaulted his nose. Merely taking a whiff of it cleared his mind and instantly refreshed his mind. Thank you, Your Highness, for your gift. Sarkis hurriedly expressed his gratitude. This time, the resentment in his heart for being beaten up for no reason completely disappeared. If being beaten up once could give him 10 more years to live, Sarkis said that he was willing to do it again. No, he wanted to do it a few more times. The Holy Sun is a kind person. Indeed, there's meat to eat if I follow him. Sarkis thought inwardly. Looking at the unconcealable joy on Sarkis' face, Lu Yuan's gaze was calm. This was the way of managing people. When it was time to reward, reward, and when it was time to punish, punish. And since Sarkis had been beaten up for no reason, some necessary compensation was still necessary. Otherwise, even if Sarkis appeared obedient on the surface, he would still harbor resentment in his heart. If he were to do something in the future, it would be inevitable that he would only obey on the surface but disobey on the inside. In fact, as time passed, it was not impossible for him to become disloyal. Lu Yuan still understood these things. Casually giving out 2 longevity pills not only eliminated Sarkis' resentment, but also made him even more loyal. This was undoubtedly worth it. Oh, right. Sarkis, there's something I need you to do, Lu Yuan said. Please give your orders, Your Highness, and I'll definitely do it for you, Sarkis said. The opponents for tomorrow's match have already been decided. The day after tomorrow, I hope to be able to fight against the Elephant Academy team. Make the arrangements, Lu Yuan's indifferent voice rang out. Yes, Your Highness. Sarkis nodded and said. When the time comes, I'll need you to help me put on a show for that old man, the Snow Knight Emperor. This shouldn't be a problem for you, right? Lu Yuan said softly. Rest assured, Your Highness, I won't let you down. It's just that. Sarkis was a little hesitant to speak. It's just that what? Lu Yuan asked. It's just that if we let the Elephant Academy lose too badly, that old man Huyanzhen's face might not look good. As you know, he has always been close to our martial soul palace. He's considered one of us, so, we'll have to give him some compensation, Lu Yuan continued. Your Highness is wise, Sarkis said. Understood. You can give this to him. A light flashed in Lu Yuan's hand, and a left arm bone appeared in his hand. It was the worst soul bone among the 12 in his possession. It was only 8,000 years old, and it was also the one that Lu Yuan had always looked down on. Fortunately, he could give it to Huyanzhen as compensation this time. Chapter 576. Although an 8,000-year soul bone wasn't anything special, it was still a soul bone. It was still very precious. Not everyone was as insightful as Lu Yuan. Most people's eyes would have lit up the moment they saw the 8,000-year soul bone. For example, Sarkis in front of him. This is a soul bone. Sarkis looked at Lu Yuan in shock. He didn't expect Lu Yuan to be so generous. He actually took out a soul bone as compensation. He was stunned for a moment. He didn't know Lu Yuan well enough. He didn't know that this guy had 11 soul bones, each of which was more than 10,000 years old. Among them, the 2 inherited soul bones of the Clear Sky sect, the right arm bone and left leg bone, were more than 90,000 years old. There was also the Blood Emperor's right arm bone, which was more than 50,000 years old. Among the remaining soul bones, there was a 40,000-year torso bone and 3 skulls. They were all very precious. Under such circumstances, how could Lu Yuan be interested in an 8,000-year left arm bone? He didn't know how to use it. If he gave it to the people around him, he would complain that it was too old. If he wanted to sell it, Lu Yuan didn't lack money now. Hence, he could take it out as compensation. Your Highness, are you going to give this soul bone to Huyanzhen and the others as compensation? Sarkis was a little surprised. Yes, it's just a soul bone. Just take it as compensation. However, don't reveal my name when you give it to them. Just say that it's from Your Highness. The less people know that I'm the Holy Sun, the better. Do you understand? Lu Yuan said. Yes, I understand. Sarkis replied. Okay, since that's the case, I'll take my leave first. Lu Yuan said as the sea god's heart in his hand shone brightly. Take care, Your Highness. Following a burst of brilliant blue light, Lu Yuan's figure suddenly disappeared from the room. Heaven Do Competition Zone, Continental Soul Master Tournament. In the resting area of Division A. Today's competition is over. What do you guys think? Lu Yuan asked softly as he looked at the crowd in front of him. Although we won, I still feel a little uncomfortable. These students from the botany department really have some tricks up their sleeves. Their control skills are quite strong. Although they're all girls, their combat power is quite strong. Ling Wei's voice rang out. Qin Sheng, what do you think? Lu Yuan asked. It's just as Ling Wei said. Although the Plant Academy team isn't as strong as the Thunder Academy team, their methods are rather strange and difficult to deal with. If Qiu hadn't forcefully broken through their control this time, it would have been difficult for us to win. Fu Qinsheng said. Yes, I saw Qiu's performance today. Little Qiu has improved a lot. Lu Yuan wasn't stingy with his praise for Wang Qiu. He. Wang Qiu was elated after being singled out and praised by Lu Yuan. There was a sweet smile on her face as she hugged Lu Yuan's left hand tightly and leaned against Lu Yuan's shoulder. This girl is becoming more and more clingy to her brother, Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan smiled as he rubbed Wang Qiu's head. He said, the opponent for the next round is out. It's the Elephant Academy. The Elephant Academy? Fu Qinsheng's eyes narrowed as she said, if I remember correctly, the Elephant Academy should be supported by the Elephant Academy. The captain of the Elephant Academy team is called Huyen Li. From what I know, the Elephant Academy seems to be quite close to the Martial Soul Palace. In other words, they follow the Martial Soul Palace's lead. The Martial Soul Palace had some conflict with the Dragon King Hall 2 days ago. This competition might be a good opportunity for them to vent their anger. Qinsheng is right. The Martial Soul Palace secretly targeted the Dragon King Hall's team and injured so many people. This time, we can take revenge on the Elephant Academy. Ling Wei continued after Fu Qinsheng finished speaking. Well, our Dragon King Palace can't take this lying down. We have to get back our face. Even Dugu Yang, who had been quiet all the time, expressed her opinion. What do you think, Qiu? Lu Yuan looked at Wang Qiu and laughed softly. Qiu thinks that brother Qinsheng and sister Yang are right. Those who dare to bully the Dragon King Hall should be prepared to be beaten up. This time, Qiu will beat them all up. Wang Qiu clenched her little fists and said with a cute look on her face. He. Lu Yuan was amused by Wang Qiu's cute look. He pinched her pink cheeks and turned around to look at Zhu Zhuqing, who was on his right. The two of them nodded at the same time. Zhu Qing and I have already discussed it. This time, the two of you don't have to fight against the Elephant Academy. Zhu Qing and I are enough. Lu Yuan smiled. What? Captain, Vice Captain, both of you are going to fight together? The crowd exclaimed at the same time. These two immortals are going to fight together. Yes, the two of us feel that there is no need to hide. This time, let's amaze the world with a single brilliant feat and show them the strength of the Heavenly Star Academy. Lu Yuan smiled. Captain, I think they might be scared by you. Ling Wei said faintly. Scared? I don't think so. I won't release my martial soul. But this time, Zhu Qing is really going to amaze the world with a single brilliant feat. Lu Yuan smiled and looked at Zhu Zhuqing. Zhu Zhuqing and Lu Yuan looked at each other, and there was a touch of gentleness in her eyes. She would not forget who she owed her current achievements to. Of course, Vice Captain's 5 soul rings will definitely scare a lot of people. It's a pity that we have never seen the Captain's soul ring combination because we can't even force you to release your martial soul. After hearing Lu Yuan's words, Ling Wei immediately said, but there was a trace of frustration in his tone. They couldn't even force out Lu Yuan's martial soul. It was indeed a little frustrating. Lu Yuan's strength really made them feel powerless. He, you will have a chance to see my soul ring combination in the future. Lu Yuan laughed softly. His soul ring combination would be released one day, but it would not be in the qualifiers or the promotion round. This was just a small matter. He would release his martial soul in the finals. Only in the finals would it be a little more interesting. Well, that's about it. You have competed so many times. Have a good rest. Tomorrow, wait to see my match with your vice-captain. Lu Yuan said. I think tomorrow's match will be very interesting. Ling Wei said. Hearing Ling Wei's words, everyone couldn't help but nod. Chapter 577. The next day, early morning, the spectators in Group A were already seated. Since the start of the Continental Elite Soul Master Tournament, there had been a sea of people almost every day. Among the four main groups, Group A had the most spectators and was the most popular. This was because the Heavenly Star Academy had been in Group A since the start of the tournament. This was something that the other three groups couldn't compare to. Every time a tournament was held, the spectator stands in Group A were always full. There were also many academy teams gathered in the spectator stands, trying to gather information on the Heavenly Star Academy and think of ways to counterbalance them. It was a pity that the Heavenly Star Academy had yet to suffer a defeat. Today, Group A seemed to be especially lively. The VIP area, which was usually empty, was filled with many people today. Even the Snowy Night Emperor, who had only appeared once during the opening ceremony, was in the VIP area. This made the spectators even more excited. It seemed that today's tournament wasn't going to be simple. Welcome everyone to the 11th round of the Continental Elite Soul Master Tournament. Today's first match is about to begin. The two sides of the competition are our ever-victorious Heavenly Star Battle Team and the Elephant Armor Academy Battle Team. Will our Heavenly Star Battle Team be able to crush them all the time, or will the Elephant Armor Academy Battle Team be able to create a miracle and win this competition? Let's wait and see. Now, let's welcome the Heavenly Star Academy and the Weaver Academy. The host's loud voice rang out, and the two teams in the resting area entered the arena. The first team to enter the arena is our Heavenly Star Academy. Walking in front is the captain of the Heavenly Star Academy, Lu Yuan. He's also the Emperor Dragon who set the record for being the fastest to obtain the purple gold soul fighting badge. He's very strong, but it's a pity that he hasn't appeared until now. Is it because his opponents are too weak that our Emperor Dragon doesn't have the desire to fight? I really hope to see our Emperor Dragon's exciting performance on the arena one day. I think the spectators are looking forward to it as well, right? Yes. As soon as the host's voice fell, the audience's thunderous roar could be heard. Emperor Dragon! Emperor Dragon! Emperor Dragon! Seeing Lu Yuan's figure, the old fans couldn't help but shout crazily. The cheers are so loud. It seems like our Imperial Dragon contestant is very popular. The host faintly smiled, and then said, walking behind Huang Long is the vice-captain of the Heavenly Star Academy, Zhu Zhuqing. Her strength is also a mystery, and she has never been on the stage before, but as the vice-captain, her strength must be very strong, and I hope to see her wonderful performance. And behind Zhu Zhuqing is Fu Qinsheng, whom everyone has seen many times. His mental control is superb, and his performance on the competition stage is also very eye-catching. As the commander, he has led the Heavenly Star Battle Team to victory many times. His performance has convinced all of you, hasn't it? The host asked again. Yes. Another earth-shaking voice rang out. Fu Qinsheng, Fu Qinsheng. After 10 rounds of the preliminaries, Fu Qinsheng's performance had also convinced the spectators. Therefore, he had many fans now. She's here, she's here. Behind Fu Qinsheng is our goddess of war, Wang Qiu'er. Wang Qiu'er's performance has been very eye-catching, and she has performed very bravely in many of the competitions. She has been loved by many spectators, and those who like to support Wang Qiu'er, please shout your support, the host said excitedly. Wang Qiu'er! Wang Qiu'er! Wang Qiu'er! The spectators in the stadium shouted crazily. Right now, Wang Qiu'er had many supporters, even more than Lu Yuan. This was because even though Lu Yuan was strong, he had never been on the stage. However, Wang Qiu'er was different. Her performance had convinced the spectators, and she was also as beautiful as a fairy. It was very normal for her to receive such support. It seems like Qiu'er is very popular, Zhu Zhuqing said softly to Lu Yuan as she walked on the stage. Indeed, Qiu'er should be the most popular person in our team, Lu Yuan said softly with a smile. You're right, Zhu Zhuqing said with a smile. The host continued to introduce the various members of the Heavenly Star Battle team. At this point, Lu Yuan and the rest had already arrived at the waiting area. The host also started to introduce the Lepardia Academy. Next up is the Lepardia Academy. The one walking in front is their captain, Huyen Li. The host's voice sounded, and he introduced all the members of the Lepardia Academy. Finally, he concluded with a sentence. These are all the contestants from the Lepardia Academy. The Lepardia Academy is indeed a strong and powerful team. Even when facing the Heavenly Star Battle team, they are still full of confidence. Can they really create a miracle and defeat the Heavenly Star Battle team? Let's wait and see. After he finished speaking, the host stopped. After entering the arena, there was half an hour to prepare. The competition would only begin half an hour later. What's wrong with this host? Does he know how to speak? He actually said that our Li and the rest can only defeat the Heavenly Star Battle team if they create a miracle. With our Li's strength, defeating the Heavenly Star Battle team is more than enough. It won't take much effort at all. In the VIP area, Huyanzhen said unhappily. When he mentioned the Lepardia Academy, his tone was full of confidence. The ignorant are fearless. Don't you know what kind of trash you are? Don't you have any self-awareness? Just as Huyanzhen finished speaking, Du Gubo's voice sounded. Du Gubo, what do you mean by that? Huyanzhen asked unhappily. On the surface, I'm saying that the Lepardia Academy is trash. You want to defeat the Heavenly Star Battle team? I think that in less than a minute, the entire Lepardia Academy will be eliminated. Du Gubo said plainly, but his tone was full of disdain. Du Gubo, do you want to fight? Huyanzhen had a bad temper. After being ridiculed by Du Gubo, he couldn't hold it in anymore. He clenched his fists and wanted to fight. With just you. Looking at Huyanzhen, Du Gubo shook his head disdainfully. A mere 8 soul rings. This old man doesn't even have the desire to fight. The current Du Gubo was not the original Du Gubo. He had condensed a poison pill and reached rank 93. After a year of cultivation, coupled with the immortal grass that Lu Yuan had given him, his soul power had risen to rank 94. He was no longer the weakest titled Douluo. Huyanzhen was only a soul Douluo. Du Gubo didn't put such trash in his eyes. Chapter 578. Du Gubo, you've gone too far. Huyanzhen stood up and clenched his fists. He was furious. Huyanzhen was only a soul Douluo, and couldn't compare to other titled Douluo. However, he wasn't afraid of Du Gubo. Huyanzhen still dared to fight Du Gubo, who was known as the weakest titled Douluo. After all, he was the sect leader of the Elephantine sect, one of the 4 lower sects. His abilities weren't ordinary. However, what he didn't know was that Du Gubo's abilities weren't ordinary. He had formed his poison pill, and was at rank 94. Huyanzhen couldn't compare to him anymore. Even the frenzy Rhino Douluo wasn't Du Gubo's match now. Heh, do you want to fight? Although I don't have any desire to fight, I can fulfill your request if you're looking for a fight. Du Gubo chuckled coldly. You. Huyanzhen clenched his fists. It seemed like he really wanted to fight Du Gubo one-on-one. Sarkaz, who had been silent all this while, stopped him when he saw this. Sarkaz, why are you stopping me? Huyanzhen was a little angry as he questioned Sarkaz. Sarkaz only replied to Huyanzhen's anger. He's an elder of the Dragon King Palace now. He's no longer the Du Gubo of the past. The Dragon King Palace? Huyanzhen calmed down when he heard this. The Dragon King Palace was very powerful now. In particular, the Dragon Emperor Douluo, Long Xiaoyaro, was very intimidating. According to what Huyanzhen knew, even the Martial Soul Palace was afraid of Long Xiaoyaro. For example, the Martial Soul Palace didn't do anything when Sarkaz was beaten up. After all, he's an ultimate Douluo. He's very intimidating. Huyanzhen couldn't help but sigh when he thought of this. His elephantine sect couldn't afford to offend the Dragon King Palace. As for the Martial Soul Palace, they wouldn't offend an ultimate Douluo unless they went to war. Therefore, he had to restrain himself for now. He would take revenge in the future when he had the chance. However, Douluo had really benefited from this. Huyanzhen thought to himself indignantly. But he sat down again. Haha, Sarkaz, it seems like you've become a lot more obedient after being beaten up by the Dragon Emperor Douluo. Douluo couldn't help but mock Sarkaz as he stopped Huyanzhen. He didn't have a good relationship with the Martial Soul Palace to begin with, and this time, Lu Yuan did the design behind his back. He really thought that the Dragon King Palace and the Martial Soul Palace were going against each other. Therefore, the sarcasm in his tone was quite genuine and came from his heart. If it was in the past, he would not have dared to go against the Martial Soul Palace. After all, although he was not afraid of death, he still had to take care of his granddaughter, Dugu Yang. However, now that he had joined the Dragon King Palace, he was not worried at all. He just mocked Sarkaz. After hearing Douluo's words, Sarkaz couldn't help but turn black. He knew that the Dragon King Palace belonged to the Holy Sun, and he also knew that everything was part of the Holy Sun's plan. He had collaborated with him to put on a show for the Snowy Night Emperor and the others. However, after being mocked by Douluo, and looking at Douluo's despicable old face that was smiling like a chrysanthemum, Sarkaz was still furious. Although he wanted to flare up, he still remembered Lu Yuan's words. He still had to put on this show, so he had to endure it for the time being. Sarkaz decided that when the Holy Sun's identity was completely revealed in the future, and he no longer had to hide it, he would definitely settle the score with Douluo today. Sarkaz snorted, and his face was filled with displeasure. However, he didn't get into a conflict with Douluo. Instead, he sat down quietly. Douluo's smile became even wider when he saw this scene. At the side, the Snowy Night Emperor and Ning Fengji couldn't help but smile when they saw how the two of them were like fire and water. The fact that the Dragon King Palace and the Martial Soul Palace were at odds with each other was really a good thing for them. Sarkaz is indeed a pig-like opponent. This wave of assistance is really great. It has pushed the Dragon King Palace to our side. This way, it will be much easier for us to rope them in. Sarkaz, who sat down with a black face, snorted in disdain when he saw the smug Douluo, the smiling Snowy Night Emperor, and Ning Fengji. A bunch of fools who have been kept in the dark. You may be smug now, but you don't know that you are all just chess pieces in the palm of the Holy Sun's hand. When you find out the truth, you will definitely be dumbfounded. Especially you, old fogey, Snowy Night Emperor. You probably won't even know how you died in the future. Not only that, but when the Holy Sun and Miss Cher take over the entire Heaven Do Empire, your royal family will also be wiped out. Hihi, so all you have to do now is laugh. If you laugh now, at most I will lose some face. When I laugh, you will already be dead. With this thought in mind, Sarkaz felt a lot more comfortable. He also ignored the mocking expressions on their faces. However, his face was still as smelly as a dead man's. There's nothing I can do about it. His Highness the Saint has instructed me to perform well. I must let His Highness know that my acting skills are also top-notch. Who knows, maybe His Highness the Holy Sun will bestow upon me 2 more longevity pills, Salaz thought happily. In the VIP area, Sarkaz's thoughts were very exciting. Below the stage, Lu Yuan and the others were already prepared. Half an hour was not a long time, and it passed by very quickly. Hello everyone, the preparation time is over. The match is about to begin. Next, let us invite the contestants from both sides to the stage. The host's voice sounded. It has finally begun. I wonder if the Heavenly Star Academy will change their contestants this time? Hua Wushuang's voice sounded in the spectator area. They probably won't. After all, the Elephant Academy's strength is only SOSO. They are not as strong as the Thunder Academy. Although Huyan Li and the others are full of confidence, I don't think they will win, Shui Bing-er, who had long ice blue hair, said. What you said makes sense. I just don't know where Huyan Li got his confidence from. Hua Wushuang scratched his head, puzzled. The Elephant Academy was not just one person who was so confident, but all the members were. He was really puzzled. Where did these people's confidence come from? Could it be that he had misjudged them? Did Huyen Li and the others really have a powerful trump card? At this time, Feng Xiaotian, who had been silent all this time, touched his chin and said softly, "There is a rumor that Huyen Zhan of the Elephant Academy bought a soul bone some time ago. It seems that Huyen Li has absorbed it." Soul bone? Hearing this, everyone was stunned. Could this be the source of Huyen Li's confidence? They can't be so stupid, right? Do they think that a soul bone can turn the tide and make a desperate counterattack? Shui Yuer's charming voice sounded. Chapter 579. Maybe they are just so naive. Feng Xiaotian said. Not maybe. Didn't I say that they are not naive, but stupid, idiots who only grow muscles but not brains? Fire Dance lightly said. Yes, Sister Fire Dance is right, they are a group of idiots. Hearing the words of Fire Dance, Feng Xiaotian quickly echoed, with a trace of flattery in his tone. Bah, bootlicker. Seeing the performance of Feng Xiaotian, Shui Yuer could not help but spit. The dignified captain of the Godwind Academy was actually acting like a bootlicker for this tomboy Fire Dance. He really had no eyesight. Bootlicker, bootlicker, bootlicker until there is nothing left. Shui Yuer's voice was very small, similar to a whisper. Feng Xiaotian and the others were separated by a certain distance, and their attention was focused on the ring not far away, so they did not hear Shui Yuer's words. But Shui Bing-er, who was beside her, heard it, and could not help but glare at Shui Yuer. Being glared at by Shui Bing-er, Shui Yuer could not help but stick out her tongue, with a cute expression on her face. Seeing this, Shui Bing-er could not help but shake her head, this younger sister of hers. Shui Yuer opened her ice blue big eyes, and looked at the ring not far away, with her long eyelashes fluttering. She said in a crisp voice, "I don't know when Prince Charming will appear, I really want to see Prince Charming's performance." After saying that, her face was full of expectation. Hearing this, Shui Bing-er could not help but gently shake her head. This younger sister of hers still had the nerve to say that Feng Xiaotian was a bootlicker, and you were a love-struck fool. Don't call the pot calling the kettle black, who was better than the other? But after listening to Shui Yuer's words, Shui Bing-er's face could not help but reveal a trace of expectation. In fact, she was also very curious about Lu Yuan's current strength. But, she did not know when this guy would appear. Did he have to wait until the match against the Blazing Fire Academy? Shui Bing-er secretly thought, and looked at Lu Yuan and the others who were not far away in the waiting area. It's time to go on stage. Hearing the host's voice, Lu Yuan stretched his waist, and looked at Zhu Zhuqing beside him, and both of them nodded. Captain, do your best. Ling Wei clenched his fists and said loudly. What are you talking about? Captain needs to be cheered on. I think this match will end in at most 1 minute. Ning Rongrong immediately retorted after hearing Ling Wei's words. She had a cheerful smile on her face. Over the past few days, perhaps because Lu Yuan's attitude towards her had improved a lot, her mood had always been very good. Her entire person had become much more cheerful, and there was a hint of playfulness and cuteness to her. Sister Rongrong, you're wrong. Chio'er thinks that brother can finish in half a minute. Wang Chio'er disagreed with Ning Rongrong's opinion. She worshipped Lu Yuan the most blindly. She felt that her brother was omnipotent. Half a minute was enough to defeat a mere Elephant Academy. He didn't need a minute at all. Yes, Chio'er is right. Sister Rongrong is wrong. Half a minute is enough. After hearing Wang Chio'er's words, Ning Rongrong stroked her chin and pondered for a while. She actually nodded in agreement. After hearing their words, Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile. How much do these guys look down on the Elephant Academy? It seems like they don't see the Elephant Academy as a threat at all. However, when Lu Yuan thought about it carefully, it seemed like he didn't see them as a threat either. It seemed like these guys had really learned something from him after hanging out with him for so long. Other things aside, their horizons were getting higher and higher. After thinking for a while, Lu Yuan said softly to Zhu Zhuqing, "Let's go, Zhuqing." After thinking for a while, he stood up. Yes. Zhu Zhuqing acknowledged and stood up as well. She followed behind Lu Yuan, and the two of them walked towards the arena at the same time. The first team to go up is our Elephant Academy. They're moving very quickly, and they're already in formation. It seems like the Elephant Academy is taking this competition very seriously. It's no wonder. After all, their opponent is the Heavenly Star Academy. The Heavenly Star Academy hasn't lost a single match since the start of the competition. The host said loudly, "Well, let's take a look at the contestants of the Heavenly Star Academy. Their contestant this time is..." Oh my God. At this point, the host's voice suddenly paused, and then he exclaimed, "What did I just see? Our contestant Huang Long and Zhu Zhuqing from the Heavenly Star Academy are going up. This is the first time they've appeared in the qualifiers. Can we finally see their wonderful performance today?" There was a trace of excitement in the host's voice. Suddenly, his voice paused again and then rose a few notches. Why did the Heavenly Star Academy only send contestant Huang Long and Zhu Zhuqing this time? Do they want to deal with the Elephant Academy with just the two of them? As soon as the host's voice fell, the figures of Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuqing appeared on the arena. Lu Yuan had his hands slightly behind his back, and his face was calm. He looked at the Elephant Academy opposite him without the slightest fluctuation in his eyes, as if he had completely ignored them. Beside him, Zhu Zhuqing's face was cold, and there seemed to be no warmth in her eyes. She looked like a stranger who didn't want to get close to her. As soon as the two of them appeared, they didn't do anything. Just the aura they exuded attracted the attention of the audience. My Prince Charming, he's on the arena." Shui Yue rubbed her big blue eyes. She thought she was seeing things. After rubbing her eyes, she looked again. Lu Yuan's figure was still standing on the arena. "Sister, my Prince Charming is really on the arena." Shui Yue pulled Shui Bing'er's sleeve, and there was a trace of excitement on her face. It couldn't be so accurate. She had just said that she wanted to see her Prince Charming on the arena, and he really did. This surprise was too big, wasn't it? Shui Yue couldn't help but put her hands on her chest, and her big eyes stared at the arena without blinking. Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuqing, the two of them who have been hiding their strength all this while, have both stepped up. Moreover, it's only the two of them. Does this mean that they want to fight 7 against 2? Feng Xiaotian rubbed his chin and said thoughtfully, "It seems so." Hua Wushuang said softly, "This guy is still as arrogant as ever." Looking at Lu Yuan, who had his hands behind his back, Hua Wu muttered to herself. This scene reminded her of the scene in Heaven Do Imperial Academy. At that time, Lu Yuan was fighting 1 against 7, and now there was only one more person, Zhu Zhuqing. "Let me see how strong you are now," Hua Wu said softly. Palace Lord Lu is actually going to fight personally today, and 2 against 7? Looking at the two people on the arena, Snowy Night Emperor, who was in the VIP area, couldn't help but ask with interest. "I heard that Palace Lord Lu didn't plan to fight personally, but when he heard that the opponent was Team Wang Jiao, he decided to fight at the last minute. He said that he wanted to learn from Team Wang Jiao." Ning Fengji's tone carried a trace of deep meaning. After hearing Ning Fengji's words, Snowy Night Emperor revealed a faint smile as he understood what Ning Fengji meant. Dragon King Palace was unhappy with Martial Soul Palace and wanted to seek revenge in today's match. That was why Lu Yuan, the Palace Lord, was going to fight personally. But why was Snowy Night Emperor so happy when he saw this scene? It definitely wasn't because the conflict between Dragon King Palace and Martial Soul Palace was getting deeper and deeper. Yes, it definitely wasn't. The Emperor of Snowy Night thought to himself, but he couldn't stop the smile from spreading across his face. Chapter 580. After hearing Ning Fengji's words, Huyanzhen couldn't help but snort. No matter how strong the Dragon King Hall is, it's impossible for the two of them to defeat our Li's team of 7. He was still confident in Huyan Li. Although he was definitely not as strong as Lu Yuan, his confidence in defeating the Heavenly Star team was built on the assumption that Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuqing wouldn't make a move. If Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuqing were to replace Jing Ling and Jiang Zhu, with all 7 members of the Celestial Star battle team present, Huyenjin wouldn't dare to say that the Wangjiu Academy battle team would win. After all, he was also a contra Douluo and had a rough estimate of the strength of both sides. He wasn't as blindly confident as Huyen Li. However, with only Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuqing, Huyen Li didn't believe that they would be strong enough to defeat Ali's team of 7. Unless it was the golden generation from the martial Soul Palace, it wouldn't be possible. After all, they were the most famous geniuses on the continent. However, there were only 3 members of the golden generation from the martial Soul Palace. The only one above them was the legendary Holy Son from the martial Soul Palace, who was the most talented person in the Douluo continent. Although Lu Yuan didn't look simple, and he was the Dragon King Hall's Hall Master, he didn't look very old. Even if his talent was extraordinary, he could only be compared to the golden generation. He could be considered a Soul King. As for Zhu Zhuqing, Huyenjin didn't believe that she could be very strong. At most, she was a Soul Ancestor. A Soul King and a Soul Ancestor. If the two of them teamed up, it would be very difficult for them to defeat Ali's team. After all, Ali still had a trump card. Huyenjin had always believed in the power of the soul bone. He had spent a lot of money to buy it. With it, Ali would be like a tiger that had grown wings. The Weaver Academy had a high chance of winning this match. It was Lu Yuan's fault for being too arrogant. He actually dared to fight 2 against 7. Let's give him a crushing defeat and tell him not to be too arrogant. It's better to keep a low profile. Huyenjin thought to himself. The ignorant are truly fearless. While Huyenjin was still thinking, Douluo's voice rang out and immediately woke Huyenjin up from his thoughts. Douluo, what do you mean? Do you think I'm wrong? Huyenjin's eyes widened as he looked at Douluo. He didn't argue with him just now, but this guy came out to cause trouble again. You're not just wrong. That's bullsh*t. Just you wait. If this match goes on for more than a minute and you still haven't lost, I'll eat this chair in front of me on the spot, Douluo said solemnly. Oh, Elder Douluo, are you that confident in Palace Master Lu? Hearing Douluo's words, the Snowy Night Emperor couldn't help but ask curiously. That's right. Our Palace Master's strength is definitely beyond your imagination. All of you better open your eyes and take a good look. Huyen Li and the others are simply no match for him. Douluo waved his hand and said indifferently. It seemed like he didn't take Huyen Li and the others seriously at all. Is Palace Master Lu that strong? The Snowy Night Emperor couldn't help but look at Ning Fengji with a questioning look in his eyes. In response to the Snowy Night Emperor's question, Ning Fengji nodded slightly and said, in my opinion, Palace Master Lu is the #1 person in the entire Douluo continent's younger generation. His strength is beyond imagination. Oh! Hearing Ning Fengji give such a high evaluation, the Snowy Night Emperor couldn't help but reveal a trace of surprise in his eyes. Even with Ning Fengji's steadiness, he actually praised Lu Yuan as the #1 person in the younger generation. Just how terrifying was Lu Yuan's strength? Haha. Just as the Snowy Night Emperor was astonished, Huyenjin couldn't help but laugh. He said, Sect Master Ning, don't brag blindly. #1 person in the younger generation? The real #1 person in the younger generation is the Holy Son of the Martial Soul Palace. He's the true genius of the entire Douluo continent. This Lu Yuan is still far from that. Haha. Ning Fengji chuckled, and didn't argue with Huyenjin. On the other hand, Douluo glanced at Huyenjin with disdain in his eyes. It seemed like he was saying that Huyenjin was ignorant. He knew how powerful Lu Yuan was, and he didn't think that there was anyone who was more talented and stronger than Lu Yuan. Who was the Holy Son of the Martial Soul Palace? How could he be compared to his palace master? As for Sarkaz, he had a strange expression on his face. He really wanted to know what kind of expression these people would have when they found out that the Palace Master of the Dragon King Palace and the Holy Son of the Martial Soul Palace were the same person. However, when he thought about it, it should be very interesting. On the stage, Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuqing stood slightly upright. It was just the two of them, but the aura they gave off made Huyen Li and the others not dare to underestimate them. The people below the stage might not be able to feel the pressure in the air, but Huyen Li and the others could clearly feel it. They originally wanted to say something sarcastic, but after sensing the aura from Lu Yuan and Dugu Bo, they all swallowed their words. Contestant Lu Yuan, are you going to fight against the entire Wang Jiao Academy team with just the two of you? The host's voice carried a trace of inquiry. After all, 2 against 7 was still too shocking, so the host wanted to confirm it with Lu Yuan. Facing the host's question, Lu Yuan nodded slightly and said softly, "Yes, let's begin." "Okay." After receiving an accurate answer from Lu Yuan, the host nodded and said loudly, "We just received an accurate answer from contestant Lu Yuan. This match will be between contestant Lu Yuan and contestant Zhu Zhuqing against the Wang Jiao Academy team. Therefore, I hereby announce that the 11th round of the qualifiers, the match between the Heavenly Star Academy team and the Wang Jiao Academy team, officially begins." As soon as the host's voice fell, the crowd was immediately excited. All the spectators were enthusiastic. 1 against 7, they were very much looking forward to it. "Brothers, activate your soul rings," Huyan Li shouted, and the students of the Wang Jiao Academy team activated their soul rings one after another. Suddenly, yellow and purple lights flashed on the stage. Huyan Li and the 2 disciples beside him had 2 yellow and 2 purple soul rings appear on their bodies at the same time. The remaining 4 people had 2 yellow and 1 purple soul rings on their bodies. 3 soul ancestors and 4 soul elders. This was the strength of the Wang Jiao Academy team. The members of the Wang Jiao Academy team were all burly men. Each of them was more than 2 meters tall and weighed more than 300 kilograms. When the 7 of them stood together, they looked like 7 mountains of flesh. Not to mention other things, their deterrence was not bad. It was a bit intimidating. Chapter 581. Huyan Li took a step forward and cupped his fists. He had changed quite a bit after the martial soul possession. If Huyan Li's original appearance could be described as somewhat simple and honest, then the current Huyan Li with his martial soul possession looked somewhat ferocious. His body was filled with explosive muscles, and there was a layer of dark golden cuticle on his skin that shone with a metallic luster. What was even more unique was that his nose had also extended, becoming very long. At the same time, his upper lip had turned up, and his 2 fangs had grown by more than a foot. This was how the diamond mammoth martial soul possession of the elephant armor sect looked like. Huyan Li wasn't the only one. The rest of the elephant armor sect disciples looked the same. Their appearance after being possessed by their martial soul was quite intimidating. Captain of the Elephant Armor Academy, Huyan Li Martial Soul Diamond Mammoth. Level 43 Defense Type Battle Soul Ancestor. Huyan Li looked at Lu Yuan seriously. This man was simply standing there, but he gave off an unimaginable amount of pressure. It was as if there was something in him that could crush him. "Alright, there's no need to say so much. Let's begin." Lu Yuan had been wanting to complain about Huyan Li's behavior of reporting their levels for a long time. At the beginning, Lu Yuan didn't think much of it. However, he felt that it was silly to report one's level before the start of the match. What was the point of reporting one's level? It was meaningless, and it was a waste of time. Hence, Lu Yuan didn't bother with Huyan Li Zhuqing. Lu Yuan called out softly and his voice was heard. Zhu Zhuqing nodded. Then, she took 2 steps forward. The imposing aura on her body suddenly rose. A mass of black light appeared on Zhu Zhuqing's body. Then, it instantly attached itself to her body. Meow. With a loud meow, Zhu Zhuqing's 2 jade-like hands grew long and sharp claws at the same time. Her pair of ears also became small and cute, fluffy cat ears. Behind her, a thin and long black tail swayed in the air. Behind her, a huge black cat figure appeared. At the same time, Zhu Zhuqing's originally clear black and white eyes turned into a clear blue like sapphires, exuding a noble aura. Beneath Zhu Zhuqing's body, 5 soul rings, yellow, yellow, purple, black, and black, slowly rose up. A powerful pressure emanated from Zhu Zhuqing's body towards Huyan Li and the others. Zhu Zhuqing, Vice Captain of the Heavenly Star Battle Team. Martial Soul 9 Lives Links. Level 52 Agility System Soul King. Zhu Zhuqing's cold voice sounded as she reported her level. After all, Lu Yuan didn't care about these rules because Lu Yuan was arrogant and carefree. He didn't care about these rules. However, Zhu Zhuqing was from a noble family, and had a marriage agreement with the Star Luo royal family since she was young. She understood these rules. Since Huyen Li reported his level, she had to report her level as a sign of respect according to the rules of the world of Soul Masters. Since Lu Yuan didn't report his level, Zhu Zhuqing could only do it herself. After all, she couldn't be rude in public. As Lu Yuan's woman, she would help Lu Yuan settle things that Lu Yuan didn't notice. After hearing Zhu Zhuqing report her level, Lu Yuan couldn't help but look at her. He smiled and shook his head. He instantly understood what she meant. She was afraid that others would say that the Heavenly Star Battle team didn't know their manners, so she did this. This girl was indeed very sensible. On the other hand, he had neglected many things because of his temper. Level 52 Soul King? 10,000 years of 4th Soul Rings. Zhu Zhuqing is a Soul King? Just as Lu Yuan was sighing at Zhu Zhuqing's sensibility, there were many exclamations. Zhu Zhuqing is actually a Soul King? Seeing the 5 soul rings on Zhu Zhuqing's body, the faces of the various teams in the viewing area surged with intense shock. Zhu Zhuqing, the vice-captain of the Heavenly Star Academy's team, was actually a Soul King. This news had greatly exceeded their expectations. Not only a Soul King, but a 10,000 years of 4th Soul Rings Soul King. Hue Wu clenched her fist, a trace of unwillingness in her eyes. She didn't expect the Heavenly Star Academy to be so strong. With such an opponent, could the Blazing Fire Academy still win? No matter how competitive she was, she couldn't help but admit that their Blazing Fire Academy simply couldn't win against a team with a Soul King. Moreover, there was still that person. A 10,000 years of 4th Soul Rings Soul King? Hue Wushuang and Feng Xiaotian glanced at each other. Both of them could see the shock in each other's eyes. Zhu Zhuqing wasn't old, she was definitely younger than them. After all, there was still a trace of immaturity on her face. She was definitely younger than Zhu Zhuqing. But even so, she had already reached the Soul King rank. This kind of talent really made people's hearts tremble. Right, if Zhu Zhuqing is a Soul King, then what about Prince Charming? He's the captain, his strength is definitely stronger than Zhu Zhuqing's. Just when everyone was shocked by Zhu Zhuqing's rank, Shui Yuer's crisp voice rang out. His words instantly caused everyone to fall silent. If Zhu Zhuqing is a Soul King, then Lu Yuan must be at least a Soul King. Shui Yuer stared at the stage with a trace of complexity in her eyes. She finally knew why Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuqing dared to go up against the 7 people from the Lepardia Academy. After all, 2 existences that were at least Soul Kings. Wouldn't it be easy for them to beat the Lepardia Academy's team? Hiss, they're really too strong. If I were to meet them, I'd directly forfeit the qualifiers. Feng Xiaotian's voice rang out. Hearing Feng Xiaotian's unambitious words, the people present not only didn't laugh at him, but instead nodded in deep agreement. Losing 2 matches in the qualifiers was actually not a big deal, as long as they could enter the qualifiers. Facing an opponent like the Heavenly Star Academy, losing was certain. So instead of fighting and exposing more of their strength to the other teams, it was better to just admit defeat. On the contrary, they could hide their strength and prepare for the qualifiers. To be honest, it wasn't only Feng Xiaotian, but even Shui Yuer and the others had such thoughts. Hue Wushuang naturally had such thoughts as well, but he looked at Hue Wu and sighed slightly. His sister and Lu Yuan had already made an appointment, so this match had to be fought. But when he thought of facing a lineup of 2 Soul Kings and 5 Soul Ancestors, Hue Wushuang couldn't help but tremble in his heart. Their Blazing Fire Academy would definitely lose completely in such a battle. Sister, you're cheating your brother with your strength. I'm really not interested in this kind of battle where you're destined to be beaten. Hue Wushuang couldn't help but shake his head and sigh deeply. Chapter 582. Ha 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 ha. In the VIP seats, Dugu Bo burst into laughter and turned to Huyen Zhan. Old stupid elephant, do you still think you can win? Hee, a 10,000-year Soul King with 4 rings, isn't that surprising enough? Douluo's face was full of smiles. His green eyes looked straight at Huyanzhan, and his tone carried a hint of pride. Hearing this, Huyanzhan's face stiffened. He really didn't expect that Zhu Zhuqing would be a Soul King, and a 10,000-year Soul King with 4 rings. Damn it, how could such a genius appear in Heavenly Star Academy? Even in the Golden Generation, only Helena could compare to her. The other two were far from her. It seemed that Ali and the others were really doomed today. The Snowy Night Emperor's face also had a trace of surprise. He looked at Ning Fengji and asked, "Did Sect Master Ning already know that this contestant Zhu Zhuqing is also a Soul King, and a 10,000-year Soul King with 4 rings?" Hearing this, Ning Fengji nodded gently and said, "This Ning knows a little about this contestant Zhu Zhuqing's strength. She is indeed a Soul King. In fact, she is a pair with Dragon King Palace's Hall Master Lu. I heard from my daughter that Hall Master Lu is also a Soul King, but his rank is a little high. He is a rank 58 Soul King." Rank 58 Soul King? Hearing Ning Fengji's words, the Snowy Night Emperor and Huyanzhan's faces changed at the same time. The Snowy Night Emperor was shocked, and his thoughts of roping in Lu Yuan became even stronger. Huyanzhan was horrified. Such a young rank 58 Soul King, this kind of talent was really a little scary. Oh no, Ali and the others are finished. They really can't see any hope of winning. Huyanzhan's face completely darkened. Hihi, how is it? Are you scared by my Hall Master's rank? Douluo smiled and pointed to the chair in front of him, saying, "I'll say it again. If your Elephant Armor Academy doesn't lose in a minute, I'll eat this chair on the spot." Hearing Douluo's words, Huyanzhan's face, which was originally ugly, became even uglier, as if he was constipated. Looking at Huyanzhan's appearance, Douluo couldn't help laughing once more. Huyanzhan was left speechless, and he felt very comfortable in his heart. He turned around slightly and cast his gaze towards the arena. He still wanted to see the heroic performance of his palace master. On the stage, Lu Yuan still had his hands behind his back. Beside him, Zhu Zhuqing had already possessed her martial soul. 5 bright soul rings rippled beneath her body, and a powerful aura swept out. Huyanli stared at Zhu Zhuqing's Soul King from across the two of them. His face was initially filled with astonishment, but he slowly recollected himself. His eyes were filled with an unprecedented seriousness. "Are you still not going to release your martial soul?" Chapter 583. The difference is still too great. Lu Yuan is here to play. Hua Wushuang couldn't help but shake her head and sigh as she watched Lu Yuan easily send Huyanli and the others flying. His strength has long since surpassed our imaginations. Although that move just now was short, the speed and strength Lu Yuan displayed were shocking. Those people from the Weevil Academy weighed at least 300 pounds, yet he easily sent them flying at the same time. This strength is truly frightening. Shui Bing'er spoke softly with a trace of melancholy in her icy blue eyes. Lu Yuan was too strong. He was so strong that she couldn't even muster up any desire to fight. She originally thought that there would be a limit to how strong Lu Yuan was, but now it seemed that the tip of the iceberg was enough to cause her to lose a great deal of confidence. "Yes, my Prince Charming is truly too strong." Shui Yuer spoke softly, her sapphire-like eyes sparkling with sparkling light. "Ari, the Weevil Academy is bound to lose. Now we'll just have to see how much strength they can force out of Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuqing." Feng Xiaotian sighed softly. "Yes, let's continue watching." Hua Wushuang sighed and turned her gaze back to the stage. "The 4 of you go deal with Zhu Zhuqing. The 2 of you come with me. We'll deal with Lu Yuan together." On the stage, Huyanli let out a loud shout as he led the 2 soul ancestors from Team Weathered Armor to surround Lu Yuan. The other 4 soul exalts charged towards Zhu Zhuqing. Lu Yuan didn't have the slightest reaction to Huyanli's arrangement. It was basically impossible for 4 soul elders to deal with Zhu Zhuqing. One had to know that Zhu Zhuqing wasn't an ordinary Soul King. With Zhu Qing's astonishing speed, the 4 soul exalts were going to become live targets for her. As for himself, Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile when he looked at Huyen Li and the other two soul ancestors. Then he'd play with these three fellows in front of him. Go! Huyen Li called out. Along with the other two soul ancestors, he surrounded Lu Yuan from three different directions. Swaying his enormous body, he threw himself at Lu Yuan at the same time. What? Do you want to hit me? Seeing the three of them charging at him from three different directions, Lu Yuan instantly understood what they were thinking. They were trying to squeeze him like a sandwich from three directions. With their terrifying height and weight, if an ordinary person were to be squeezed like this, the huge pressure that would follow would be enough to make him lose his ability to fight, not to mention whether he would be injured or not. After all, the force of this impact was definitely not weak. But Lu Yuan didn't seem to care at all. Instead, he looked in Zhu Zhuqing's direction. Four soul exalts were using the same method to attack Zhu Zhuqing. Should I say, as expected of a team? Do they all fight in the same way? But such a small trick wouldn't be of any use against Zhu Zhuqing. Coming back to his senses, Lu Yuan looked at the three people charging at him. He smiled faintly and said, "Come, let me see how strong you are." A golden light flashed from his body as the golden dragon armor covered his entire body. The dazzling golden armor sparkled with a resplendent radiance that made it hard for people to open their eyes. The armor was densely covered with fiery red and icy blue cloud patterns, making the golden armor even more gorgeous. On his back, a blood-red cloak fluttered in the wind. The dazzling golden armor paired with the blood-red cloak instantly made the already extraordinarily charming Lu Yuan even more handsome. If the original immortal-like temperament was more ethereal and confident, then the current Lu Yuan was more like a god of war with a heroic and masculine aura. Many of the female spectators' eyes lit up as they looked at Lu Yuan with a green light in their eyes. They looked as if they wanted to swallow him into their stomachs. Prince Charming is so handsome. In the spectator area, Shui Yue clasped her hands in front of her chest as she looked at Lu Yuan in his armor. Her big eyes seemed to melt as she looked at Lu Yuan. Her cherry lips were slightly opened as if she was mumbling to herself. He is indeed very handsome. This time, Shui Bing'er didn't refute Shui Yue's point of view. Instead, she nodded in agreement because Lu Yuan was indeed very handsome. Cough cough, he is indeed very handsome. But shouldn't we pay more attention to his armor? If I'm not wrong, that should be the legendary external soul bone. Feng Xiaotian coughed and said, "It is indeed an external soul bone. We saw him use it when we were in the Heaven Do Imperial Academy. However, 4 years have passed, and his external soul bone has changed a lot." Hua Wushuang said, "It has changed a lot. It has obviously become stronger. This is the charm of an external soul bone. It can evolve as the owner improves, and it will never become outdated. Moreover, once it is completely integrated, it cannot be taken away. It is really a treasure. I really don't know where Lu Yuan got it. His luck is really good." Feng Xiaotian said with a trace of envy in his voice. "Yes, I am so envious." Hua Wushuang also sighed softly. He looked at Lu Yuan's golden dragon armor without blinking. He also wanted such a treasure. In the arena, Huyen Li and the other two were also stunned by the sudden appearance of the golden dragon armor. However, they didn't stop. The three of them ran, and their huge bodies crashed into Lu Yuan with heavy force. Dong! 3 terrifying mountains of flesh surrounded Lu Yuan. The three of them were huge. After they surrounded Lu Yuan's body couldn't be seen anymore. Ah! In the waiting area, Ning Rongrong couldn't help but exclaim when she saw this scene. "Will Abuchi be okay?" There was a trace of anxiety in her voice. Even though she knew how strong Lu Yuan was, she still couldn't help but worry when faced with such a situation. This was called worrying too much. He'll be fine. This bit of strength isn't even enough to tickle him. Wang Qiu'er looked at the scene in the arena and said nonchalantly. Although she was also very concerned about Lu Yuan, she knew how terrifying the golden dragon martial soul was. The strength of a body tempered by such a martial soul was beyond imagination. Lu Yuan's physique had already reached a terrifying level. He wasn't inferior to an ordinary titled Douluo. In fact, he was even slightly stronger. After all, the Titan giant ape's 100,000-year soul ring was no joke. The truth was just as Wang Qiu'er had said. Lu Yuan was completely fine. As he looked at the 3 mountains of flesh on his body, Lu Yuan smiled and said, "Is that it? Use more strength. I can still do it." Chapter 584. Huyan Li roared when he heard Lu Yuan's words. The muscles on his body bulged, and he stomped on the ground with his thick legs. His huge body pressed down on Lu Yuan with immense strength. The other 2 soul ancestors did the same. Exerting all the strength in their bodies, the 3 of them pressed down on Lu Yuan's body with all their might. Interesting. Huyan Li and the other 2 were exerting their full strength to squeeze out the pressure. The combined strength of the 3 of them was probably more than 10,000 jin. 5,000 kilograms of strength wasn't considered small, but that was only for Lu Yuan. Generally speaking, soul emperors might not even have the strength of 5,000 kilograms, unless they were the type that specialized in strength. Zhao Wuji was a soul sage, but he didn't even have 40,000 kilograms of strength. He was a strength type assault type soul sage. Huyan Li and the other 2's combined strength was more than 5,000 kilograms. This number was actually not bad. In the entire Heaven Do district, apart from Lu Yuan, only Wang Qiu'er could exert more than 5,000 kilograms of strength. After all, she had the Golden Dragon martial soul, and strength was her forte. Of course, strength wasn't the same as actual strength. However, great strength was also a terrifying weapon against enemies. For example, if Hua Wushuang or Feng Xiaotian were in the middle of Huyan Li and the other 2, they would have lost their ability to fight. However, this was useless against Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan didn't feel anything when the 5,000 kilograms of strength pressed down on Lu Yuan's body. "Is this all you've got?" Lu Yuan shook his head as he looked at the 3 muscular men squeezing him. He said, "If this is all you've got, then I'm going to make a move." As he spoke, Lu Yuan's body trembled slightly. A tremendous force was released from Lu Yuan's body, and Huyan Li and the other 2's mountain-like bodies were sent flying. Lu Yuan took a step forward and appeared in front of the other 2 soul ancestors in an instant. 2 kicks landed on their bodies in quick succession. The 2 soul ancestors groaned as blood flowed out from their mouths. A light kick had broken through their defenses, which had been strengthened by their soul power, and injured them. The diamond mammoth's defenses were extremely strong. Very few soul masters of the same rank could break through their defenses. However, their defenses were like paper to Lu Yuan. He could easily pierce through them. The 2's bodies crashed heavily onto the arena's floor. Lu Yuan didn't show any mercy because he was putting on an act. Otherwise, he would be exposed. Furthermore, he had already compensated them. Huyan Li's eyes turned red when he saw that the other 2 soul ancestors had been injured. He was an impulsive person. Now that his teammates were lying on the ground, he was completely enraged. His eyes were red, and he charged towards Lu Yuan without hesitation. His 3rd soul ring lit up, and he leapt into the air like a mountain of flesh. His body flickered with a layer of purple light as he pressed down on Lu Yuan. It was his 3rd soul skill, Crushing Kill. Hey! Lu Yuan was about to take a step forward when he was faced with Huyan Li's soul skill. However, he suddenly realized that he couldn't move his legs. It turned out that Crushing Kill was a soul skill that the Elephant Armor sect had researched for a long time. Once the opponent was locked on, their legs would be temporarily immobilized. They could only choose to resist. This skill was specially used to deal with agility-type soul masters who were fast. Lu Yuan immediately understood what was going on when he felt that his legs were immobilized. This type of locking was similar to another type of control. If Lu Yuan had activated his Golden Dragon War body, he would have been immune to it. However, he couldn't even use his martial soul right now, so he was being controlled. Lu Yuan didn't care that he was being controlled. However, this will be troublesome for Zhu Qing. She's an agility-type soul master and isn't very strong. I have to remind her. Lu Yuan muttered to himself. His lips moved slightly as he forced his voice into a line and transmitted it to Zhu Zhuqing, who was not far away. After receiving Lu Yuan's reminder, Zhu Zhuqing increased her speed once again. Her body turned into a series of after-images so that they couldn't lock onto her. At the same time, she unleashed her Nether Shadow doppelganger along with her Netherworld soul-breaking claw. 6 after-images surrounded the 3 soul elders from the Elephant Armor sect and beat them up. Under Zhu Zhuqing's Netherworld Soul Destroyer claw, the Diamond Mammoth's defense was strong, but it was useless. Blood splattered everywhere with a single claw. Zhu Zhuqing showed no mercy at all. Her claws were stained with blood, and Lu Yuan felt his scalp tingle. Although the Elephant Armor sect's disciples only suffered superficial injuries, they were still in a terrible state. Huyanzhen furrowed his brows from time to time as he watched from the VIP seats. He wanted to vent his anger, but he had to take into account Dugu Bo and the Dragon King Hall's power into consideration. In the end, he decided not to look at Zhu Zhuqing's battle. Instead, he looked at Lu Yuan's battle. That was what he was more concerned about. After all, his grandson, Huyan Li, was fighting Lu Yuan. On Lu Yuan's side, Huyan Li leapt high into the air. His tall and heavy body descended from the sky. Coupled with Huyan Li's innate soul power, the force of this move was even greater than the force of Huyan Li and the other two. Die! Huyan Li roared as he came crashing down on Lu Yuan. He wanted to flatten Lu Yuan this time. Die! Faced with Huyan Li's terrifying attack that was descending from the sky, Lu Yuan gently extended his right hand. Chapter 585. How F** King strong is he? Hutting Li, who is so big, fell from the sky and was caught by him so easily. Feng Xiaotian could not help but ridicule when he saw Lu Yuan lift Huyan Li up with a single hand. His casual manner caused Feng Xiaotian to ridicule him. Anyway, it's very big. Hua Wushuang spread out his hands and said. He doesn't plan to fight at all, he's just playing. At this time, Hua Wu, who had been silent all this time, said. Hua Wu's face was very calm, so calm that not a single ripple could be seen. This was very different from her usual fiery temper. Sister, are you okay? Hua Wushuang asked. I'm fine. Hua Wu gently shook her head and said. Sister, why don't we forfeit the match with the Heavenly Star Academy? Since we can't win, there's no need for you to fight with Lu Yuan. He's an abnormal monster. You see, Hutting Li and the others are like toys in his hands. Even if it's us, we won't be any better. You don't have any hope of winning. Hua Wushuang said. I know. Hua Wu nodded and said, I don't plan to win at all. I just want to fight with the strongest of the younger generation and see how big the gap is between us. Okay then. Hearing this, Hua Wushuang slightly nodded. He wasn't afraid of losing, but he was afraid that his sister's confidence would be damaged. After all, her desire to win was very strong. If she was beaten too badly by Lu Yuan, he was afraid that his sister would collapse. But now, it seemed that his sister's mentality had changed a lot. So, even if she lost, it wouldn't have any effect. The huge stone in Hua Wushuang's heart was finally put down. Sister Hua Wu. Hearing Hua Wu's words, Feng Xiaotian couldn't help but whisper. Even Hua Wu had the confidence to face Lu Yuan. Even if she lost, she didn't care. Instead, it was him, a big man, who actually had a shadow in his heart and didn't dare to fight with Lu Yuan. Thinking about it, it seems that he was not even as good as Yu Tianxian, although this guy did not have any self-awareness, but he did not lack courage, although he lost miserably, but at least he still fought with the Heavenly Star Academy. Feng Xiaotian secretly decided that he would forget about the preliminaries, but he would definitely fight with Lu Yuan in the promotion round. He wanted to prove that he, Feng Xiaotian, was not inferior to anyone. Even if he lost the battle, he wouldn't lose the battle. This was Feng Xiaotian's last bit of stubbornness. Looking at Lu Yuan on the stage, Feng Xiaotian's eyes shone brightly. This man is really strong. However, I'm not weak either. Lu Yuan, I'm waiting to fight with you. Feng Xiaotian thought to himself. Lu Yuan, let go of me. Huyen Li was still struggling, but it was still useless. Lu Yuan just held him up, and his right hand did not tremble at all. Let go of the captain. The other two injured soul ancestors from the Elephant Armor Academy stood up from the ground. Looking at Huyen Li in Lu Yuan's hand, they shouted at the same time. Their bodies shone with a purple light as they directly pounced on Huyen Li third soul skill, crushing kill. Two huge mountains of flesh pressed down on Lu Yuan. This is none of your business. Get lost. Lu Yuan threw Huyen Li up with his right hand, then stretched out his right hand, grabbed Huyen Li's ankle, and swung him towards the two people pressing down on him. Watch my human sledgehammer. Lu Yuan smiled slightly, and directly used Huyen Li as a weapon, smashing him towards the two soul ancestors from the Elephant Armor Academy. No, Ali! Huyen Zhen exclaimed. Even if the other two soul ancestors from the Elephant Armor Academy were hit, they would be fine. At most, they would be injured, and would be fine after a few days of rest. But at this moment, Huyen Li's head was directly smashing towards the two soul ancestors. The head was the most important part of the human body, and it couldn't be damaged in the slightest. Therefore, Huyen Zhen immediately panicked. His lips moved slightly, and he spat out two words. Old elephant, you're cheating. Douluo Bo chuckled. Huyen Zhen glanced at Douluo Bo, and then ignored him. Instead, he looked at the battle between Huyen Li and Huyen Zhen with a worried expression. After being reminded by Huyen Zhen, Huyen Li's head suddenly shone brightly. The earthy yellow light transformed into a helmet that covered Huyen Li's entire head. It was the skull that Huyen Li had obtained. Boom! Just as the earthy yellow helmet was released, Huyen Li collided with the two soul ancestors from the sky. Immediately, the two soul ancestors' huge bodies were sent flying, and blood gushed out of their mouths. This time, they had suffered internal injuries. Although Huyen Li had the protection of the helmet, he wasn't completely unharmed. His eyes were blank, and his head was dizzy. He was held in Lu Yuan's hand without moving at all. Lu Yuan casually flung Huyen Li to the ground. Huyen Li shook his head for a while before he recovered. When he thought about what Lu Yuan had done, his fourth soul ring lit up, and his skin changed again. His entire body was covered with a layer of icicles. He looked at Lu Yuan with a fierce look in his eyes. What? You still want to come at me, stupid elephant? Lu Yuan said with a faint smile. What are you looking at? Do you believe that I won't break your helmet if you keep looking? Seeing Huyen Li's fierce eyes staring at him, Lu Yuan couldn't help but glare at Huyen Li and say loudly. After being glared at by Lu Yuan, Huyen Li's gaze became even more fierce. He had a temperamental personality, and with the addition of Lu Yuan's provocation, he had gradually lost his rationality and entered a half-crazy state. In this state, he didn't know what fear was. Roar! Huyen Li roared and pounced towards Lu Yuan. It seems like you've turned a deaf ear to my words. Lu Yuan looked at Douluo Yang with confusion. Not only that, but even Zhu Zhuqing, Wang Qiu and Ning Rongrong, who were sitting beside Lu Yuan, were also staring at Douluo Yang curiously. This. Douluo Yang muttered to herself for a moment, and then explained the whole matter from beginning to end. Hearing this, Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile. The girls also covered their mouths and laughed. So, Elder Douluo, you really ate it? Lu Yuan asked with a smile. Of course. I'll do what I say. Douluo Bo said with determination. You ate the entire chair? Lu Yuan looked at Douluo Bo in shock. No, I only ate 2 mouthfuls, and my teeth fell out. Lord, please help me. Douluo Bo held his cheeks, and looked like he was in pain. Hearing this, Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile and shake his head. White light flickered in his hand and wrapped around Douluo Bo's wound. Very soon, Douluo's swollen wound was completely healed. Elder Douluo, don't talk nonsense in the future. Lu Yuan chuckled. Hearing this, Douluo couldn't help but glance at Lu Yuan. There was a hint of bitterness in his expression. Chapter 587. The qualifiers continued, but the Heavenly Star Academy team was very bored these days. Thanks to Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuqing's work, the other teams were shocked by the strength of the Heavenly Star Academy team. Every team chose to forfeit when they met the Heavenly Star Academy team. For 4 consecutive days, they won without a fight. One of the matches was against the Godwind Academy, but like the other teams, the Godwind Academy's Feng Xiaotian chose to forfeit. Many teams seemed to have reached a consensus that there was no need to fight the Heavenly Star Academy team in the qualifiers, so they all chose to withdraw. Today, it was Saturday again. In the Dragon King Hall, a few girls sat together, staring at each other. What's wrong? You're all sitting here without saying a word. Are you all very free? In the room, Lu Yuan, who had just finished crafting a soul tool, walked out and saw Zhu Zhuqing, Wang Qiu'er, and the other 3 sitting across from each other. He couldn't help but ask. Very free, I don't know what to do. Douluo Yang's voice sounded. Yes, and we haven't competed for 4 consecutive days. It's quite boring. Ning Rongrong said. If you're free, you can go out for a stroll. Let Sister Xiaodao accompany you and protect you. Don't always stay at home. Besides, don't you girls like to go shopping? Lu Yuan said. We've already been shopping for 3 days. We've already explored the entire Heaven Do City. Wang Qiu'er said faintly. Okay, then I can't do anything. Hearing Wang Qiu'er's words, Lu Yuan spread his hands and said helplessly. You must be tired after crafting a soul tool. Look at you, your head is covered in sweat. Zhu Zhuqing said softly. She stood up, took out a handkerchief, and wiped the sweat off Lu Yuan's forehead. My Zhuqing is indeed the most considerate. After Zhu Zhuqing wiped off the sweat on her forehead, Lu Yuan grabbed her hand and said softly, Don't worry, I'll be fine. Pay attention, there are others. Zhu Zhuqing glanced at Lu Yuan and said softly, Haha. Lu Yuan chortled and didn't say anything else. He held Zhu Zhuqing's hand and sat down beside Wang Qiu'er. Little Qiu'er hasn't played in the past 2 days. Are you bored? Lu Yuan asked softly as he pinched Wang Qiu'er's cheeks. Yes, I'm really bored. Furthermore, brother doesn't play with me. I'm so bored, Wang Qiu'er said in a coquettish voice. I'm busy. However, I haven't forgotten about Qiu'er. This time, I've specially prepared a gift for Qiu'er. Lu Yuan smiled as he spoke. What gift? Wang Qiu'er opened her eyes wide when she heard that there was a gift. Her eyes were filled with curiosity. Lu Yuan laughed as he said, a soul tool. Elder brother has specially made a soul tool for Qiu'er. Really? When she heard Lu Yuan's words, Wang Qiu'er's eyes immediately brightened. Her elder brother had tailor-made it for her. Wang Qiu'er was delighted, and her face was full of smiles. Therefore, he made this Class 7 soul tool as a gift for Wang Qiu'er. Speaking of which, a Class 7 soul tool was enough for Wang Qiu'er. Qiu'er likes it. Brother, what's the name of this spear? Wang Qiu'er caressed the spear in her hand. There was a look of delight in her eyes. After sizing it up, she lifted her head and looked at Lu Yuan. I haven't named it yet. Since it's made from scarlet gold, why don't we call it the Scarlet Gold Spear? When he heard Wang Qiu'er ask for his name, Lu Yuan scratched his head. In fact, he was bad at naming things. When he gave Chihiro Snow's sword, it was called the Holy Sword because it was infused with holy power. When he gave it to Ning Rongrong, it contained the power of ice and fire, so it was called the Icefire Sword. Since this golden dragon spear was made from scarlet gold, he might as well name it the Scarlet Gold Spear. It was simple and crude. Alright, we'll call it the Scarlet Gold Spear then. Wang Qiu'er held the spear and waved it twice. She was delighted as she spoke. Chapter 588. Zhuqing, this is yours. Lu Yuan smiled as he saw Wang Qiu looking at the spear happily. A light flashed in his hand, and a sword that was about 4 feet 3 inches long, 1 foot 2 inches long, and 4 inches wide appeared in his hand. This sword was completely blue, and the blade was as transparent and flawless as a sapphire. There was a faint, cold aura around the blade, and the hilt was also blue. There was a huge, pure sapphire embedded at the top of the hilt. There were golden demonic patterns carved on the hilt, and it looked very strange. The sword guard spread open like a phoenix's wings, and the blue-gold phoenix carvings made it look very noble and gorgeous. This sword was different from Wang Qiu's scarlet flame spear. The scarlet flame spear was low-key and luxurious, while this sword was noble and gorgeous. Although their styles were different, they both looked very pleasing to the eye. This was Lu Yuan's style. After all, he was obsessed with good looks, and his products were all very good-looking. Chihiro Snow's holy sword and Ning Rongrong's icefire sword were both very beautiful and exquisite. His reputation as someone who was obsessed with good looks wasn't just for show. However, when he thought about Qian Renshue's holy sword, Lu Yuan remembered that this sword wasn't complete when it was first created. It could still be upgraded. It seemed like he had to find an opportunity to upgrade Qian Renshue's holy sword to a Class 7 soul tool. Lu Yuan thought to himself. Lu Yuan came back to his senses after this thought, and continued to introduce the sword to Zhuqing. This sword is made from icewave crystals, and it's very compatible with your 9 lives links. I've infused the power of extreme ice into it, and it's very strong. It's also a Class 7 soul tool. In terms of quality, this sword isn't inferior to Qiu's scarlet flame spear. Is it also a Class 7 soul tool? Zhuqing asked softly as she received the sword. Yes, it is. Lu Yuan nodded and said. What's its name? Zhuqing asked. I haven't named it yet, but since it's made from icewave crystals, why don't we call it the Icewave Sword? Lu Yuan suggested. No. Zhuqing shook her head and said, the Ice Billow Sword has no special characteristics. Why don't we call it the Clear Abyss Sword? Clear Abyss Sword. Zhuqing, Lu Yuan, do we have a character for each of our names? Hearing Zhuqing's words, Lu Yuan instantly understood the origin of this name. The corners of his mouth involuntarily curled, revealing a slight smile. On the other hand, Ning Rongrong and Dugu Yang immediately understood the meaning of the Clear Abyss Sword's name. They couldn't help but pout at the same time. F***ck, it's just a sword. He didn't expect that Zhuqing, who was always quiet, would be so good at showing off her public display of affection. She wasn't much inferior to Zhuqing. It was just that her figure was a little lacking. After wearing the hair accessory, she looked even more beautiful. After hearing Lu Yuan's words, Ning Rongrong couldn't help but smile. That smile was very sweet. The next morning, Heaven Do Imperial Palace. In front of Lu Yuan, Chihiro Snow, who was disguised as Xue Qinghe, bowed to Lu Yuan and said in a warm voice, Palace Lord Lu, please follow me. Father has been waiting for you for a long time. Lu Yuan first looked at the palace guards around him. Then, he retracted his gaze and stared straight at Chihiro Snow in front of him, carefully sizing him up. To be honest, he had never carefully looked at Chihiro Snow's appearance when he was disguised as Xue Qinghe. As for appearance, although he couldn't be compared to Lu Yuan, he could still be considered handsome. Moreover, his temperament was gentle and refined. He gave people a feeling of being bathed in the spring breeze. Unconsciously, people would want to get close to him. From a woman's point of view, this kind of man should be the very charming type. Speaking of which, if Chihiro Snow went out to pick up girls with this face, he should be able to hook up with quite a few beauties. Lu Yuan secretly muttered in his heart while sizing him up. Seeing Lu Yuan staring at him with a strange expression, Chihiro Snow couldn't help but frown. His intuition told him that Lu Yuan was thinking of something bad. Therefore, when the palace guards weren't paying attention, Chihiro Snow fiercely glared at Lu Yuan. Chapter 589. After being glared at by Chihiro Snow, Lu Yuan smiled faintly. However, he didn't retract his gaze. Instead, he rolled his eyes and sized him up from head to toe. Cough cough. Chihiro Snow coughed and said, "Hallmaster Lu, please follow me." As he spoke, he led the way. Qian Renxue was well aware of Lu Yuan's shameless nature. She didn't want to waste time with Lu Yuan here. No matter how she fought with this guy, she would be the one at a disadvantage in the end. Therefore, Qian Renxue decided not to take the bait and just left. However, this move was actually quite effective. As he watched Chihiro Snow lead the way, Lu Yuan could only call out to Chihiro Snow. After that, he followed behind Chihiro Snow. As he followed Chihiro Snow, they made many turns and crossed many palaces before they finally reached their destination. It had to be said that the Heaven Do Imperial Palace was huge. It wasn't smaller than the Martial Soul Palace. Since it was a private meeting, he definitely wouldn't receive Lu Yuan in the main hall of the Imperial Palace. Instead, he received Lu Yuan in a pavilion in the Imperial Garden of the Imperial Palace. "Father, Palace Lord Lu is here." Qian Renxue bowed slightly to the Snow Knight Emperor and said softly, "Oh, Hallmaster Lu is here?" After hearing Chihiro Snow's words, the Snow Knight Emperor turned around slightly and stood up. Beside him, a middle-aged man also stood up. "Hallmaster Lu is young and talented. I've admired you for a long time. Today, I'm finally fortunate enough to meet you." The Snow Knight Emperor smiled faintly. "You're too kind. I've been friends with you for a long time. Today, I can see that you're indeed worthy of your reputation. You're full of the demeanor of an emperor." Lu Yuan said softly, "You lift me up, and I lift you up. We're just using each other. It's just some pleasantries. Whoever believes it will lose." Everyone present was a shrewd person, and they could tell the truth and politeness in his words with just one listen. However, everyone pretended that they didn't hear it. After all, he was a high-level leader. Who didn't have some acting skills? Lu Yuan's gaze shifted and landed on Ning Fengji. "Uncle Ning is here too? Haha, Abuchi, your meeting with the great emperor is such a memorable scene. How can I not be there?" Ning Fengji laughed softly. Lu Yuan smiled and didn't comment. He knew what Ning Fengji was thinking. Ning Fengji wanted the alliance between the Dragon King Palace and the Heaven Do Imperial Clan so that Ning Fengji could help the Heaven Do Imperial Clan persuade Lu Yuan. After all, the Seven Treasures Glazed Sect would benefit a lot from the alliance between the Dragon King Palace and the Imperial family. Ning Fengji was very cunning. Lu Yuan knew this very well. Therefore, he wasn't surprised that Ning Fengji was here. "Hallmaster Lu, please take a seat." The Snowy Knight Emperor pointed to the seat opposite him and laughed softly. "Thank you, Emperor." Lu Yuan didn't decline and sat down. Long Xiaoyaro stood behind Lu Yuan. Shui Yi and Ning Fengji also sat down when they saw Lu Yuan sit down. After the few of them sat down, servant girls immediately served tea and snacks. The Snowy Knight Emperor looked at Long Xiaoyaro before turning to Lu Yuan. He asked softly, "This must be the Dragon Emperor Douluo." "Yes, this is Elder Long." Lu Yuan nodded and replied. The Dragon Emperor Douluo is indeed one of the most powerful individuals in the world. His aura is as deep as the abyss. The Snowy Knight Emperor praised. "You're too kind, Emperor." Long Xiaoyao's voice sounded. "Qing He, prepare a seat for the Dragon Emperor Douluo." The Snowy Knight Emperor instructed Chihiro Snow. "Yes, father." After hearing this, Chihiro Snow nodded and hurriedly arranged for the servant girls around to prepare a seat for Long Xiaoyao. "Take a seat, Elder Long." Lu Yuan said. "Yes, master." After receiving Lu Yuan's permission, Long Xiaoyao sat down. Isn't Elder Jian the one following Uncle Ning today? This elder is unusually tall. If I'm not wrong, this should be the Bone Douluo, Elder Gu. Lu Yuan asked curiously as he looked at the 2.5-meter tall figure behind Ning Fengji. Yes, it's Uncle Gu. Uncle Jian has something to do today, so Uncle Gu is accompanying me. Ning Fengji replied. Oh, I see. Lu Yuan nodded and shifted his gaze away from the Bone Douluo. The Bone Douluo was a rank 95 transcendent Douluo. His abilities were decent, but he was much weaker than the Sword Douluo. Lu Yuan only paid attention to him because of his 2.5-meter tall figure. That was why he only looked at him casually before retracting his gaze. On the other hand, the Bone Douluo was sizing up Lu Yuan with interest. He seemed to be trying to see what kind of magic Lu Yuan had that could make Ning Rongrong so infatuated. Lu Yuan could naturally sense the Bone Douluo sizing him up. However, he didn't care. Why didn't Elder Dugu come with Hallmaster Lu today? The Snowy Night Emperor asked softly as he looked at Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan smiled faintly and said, Elder Dugu didn't want to see anyone she knew these 2 days. She was afraid that it would be awkward. As soon as Lu Yuan said that, the Snowy Night Emperor and Ning Fengji immediately realized that it was because of the chair incident. Thinking about it, the two of them couldn't help but smile. Emperor, I heard from Sect Master Ning that you wanted to meet me to discuss a collaboration. Lu Yuan took a sip of tea. He didn't hide anything anymore. Instead, he went straight to the point. Yes, what do you think, Hallmaster Lu? Since Lu Yuan was so direct, the Snowy Night Emperor didn't bother with the pleasantries. He also went straight to the point. Sect Master Ning has told me about this before. I don't have any objections to the collaboration.